Hello, contestants of Who Reviews the Viewers. I am Captain Logan. Welcome to round 4, the Deliberations, and we're going to get into it straight away right after I introduce my illustrious co-host. It's the Real Manos!
Oh, hello. I didn't see you watching.
And ready to attack the world, it's Aaron Dicer! He's angry, apparently. And tingling for fun, it's Lance Fusion!
Hello. Hi.
See, what happens is when I'm looking at you guys on Skype, I have your real names, and so I'm like, it's Lance. No, not his real name, not his real last name.
That's not my real name.
It's
anymore.
Lance. Is it not?
My real name is Edmund.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow, never little known fact. You know what? We've been getting to know the contestants so much this year, but Lance, I've known you for like 5 years, and I'm finding out things about you I didn't know. It's absolutely fantastic. So first of all, as always, we want to wish Travis and Katie a bon voyage and a fond farewell. We sure appreciated having them on the program, and they've got our attention, and they're super fun, and I sure hope they keep making things, and I hope they get more time to actually get together in the same room and make things, because lately they've not had the time to do that. And anyway, I didn't realize I was doing beatnik poetry, but all right. And anyway, so unfortunately we had to vote them off last time, and we hate that. We hate having to vote people off, but it's a contest, and that's what we have to do. And I'm sure more tears will be shed this evening. You will notice that Alex is missing. We know where he is. Well, actually, we don't know where he is, but he knows where he is. And yeah, I feel like I need to get Luigi to walk around in an educational game and go find the man. But anyway, Lance, I got that one. Unfortunately, Alex, right at the last minute, wasn't able to make it. He said that something came up, and he wasn't able to come. So we're going to try to put his notes in for you in post. Hopefully, he will have the time to do that, and you'll be able to see that in the very video you're watching right now. In the meantime, we are going to work with the 4 of us, and hope to God there's not a tie at the end. If that ends up happening, our plan is to ask Alex to give his vote later, and we'll put that in as well, and then I will just announce, hey, this is who got voted off, and these guys won't get to react, and that'll be somewhat sad. But anyway, we'll see how everything pans out at the end. Shall we? Let's go ahead and get on with it. So the challenge for this time was the raw upload challenge. One of what has turned out to be one of the more interesting review subjects, styles, where you guys had to upload. You guys know what you did. You had to upload a video with no editing whatsoever, and you had to rely entirely on your wit, your ingenuity, and your content. And I found, guys, and tell me if you agree with this, that the folks that seemed to stand out the most this time were the ones where I just wasn't even thinking about that. The folks that picked a thing and approached it in such a way where I kind of couldn't imagine them doing it any other way. And if they had simply posted it that way, nobody would have said, oh, that was an assignment.
Right, yeah, I think what happens when you are, sequestered in rules like that, that's where true creativity comes out. Like, that's where you have to be thinking about how you can keep people, interested in doing different things, and I thought that was really cool how some people did that.
A lot of
lives on limitations.
Yeah, minimalism, man. I mean, I always go to Twilight Zone. That's why a lot of that was so brilliant. $1.98, you got to rely on story. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, beginning with who's our first review tonight? Let me get this up really quick. It is Squatch Gang, and his review of the Fantastic Four animated series. We're going to go ahead and watch it, and then we'll discuss it. Here we go.
Hello everyone, this is Jay with Nebraska from Squatch Gang, bringing you guys a review of the 1994 through 1995 Fantastic Four animated television series. So let's do it. Okay, so as a kid, this was always my favorite cartoon. For a couple reasons, but the main ones were that this series does a great job of taking Fantastic Four stories from the comics and adapting them in a way that, somewhat simplifies them, but also doesn't.
Well, that was odd.
I'm voting out on this one video.
Yeah, I think that one was way too short. I don't think.
Yeah. Why do you freeze and stop?
Why?
This is terrible.
He needs to finish, you know, just get
It's
it.
injustice, and captures the guts of what those stories are about. The essence, the substance behind
Though he wasn't supposed
what
to
made
edit.
some of the Fantastic Four stories great. So we have Coming of Galactus, we have the Inhuman Saga, the Fantastic Four and the Black Panther stuff. We have so much stuff that is taken directly from the comics and adapted in a really thoughtful and smart way that allows for both, little kids and, people that are a little bit older to both watch the show and both like it, which is really, really, really awesome. The show has a great sense of continuity. So, a lot of shows, like Batman the Animated Series, it doesn't really matter what episode you watch after, so it doesn't matter what order you watch the episodes in. Most of the time, if it's a multi-part episode in that, then obviously it does. But for the most part, the Batman Animated Series can really be watched in any order you really want. The episodes don't really, rely on what happened last time. So this show is a little bit different from that, though, because of the fact that it adapts big stories like the Coming of Galactus and stuff. So it's got a lot of multi-part episodes. So it plays a lot better if you watch the series in order, which is something that I kind of like because it makes it feel a little bit more like a serialized medium, more like a comic book, and that's really awesome. Another thing that I like is the fact that there are other Marvel characters besides the Fantastic Four in this show. Like I said, Black Panther, but we also have the Hulk, and we have Daredevil, which are just freaking awesome that this universe feels so connected. It feels like the actual Marvel universe. It feels like any character could pop up at any time, and that's really awesome because, it's a universe. There are other characters in it, and that's a good thing. So I really like that, but the biggest problem I have with this series is probably the fact that the early episodes are not to the same level of quality that the later episodes are. So I think that all comes down to the fact that it really has a hard time finding the tone that it wants to go with. It has a hard time finding what kind of show it wants to be. Sometimes it's really silly, and other times, it kind of tries to get a little bit more serious and a little bit more heartfelt. But those mixing of awkward tones, you don't really know, is it for kids, is it for older people, based on those early episodes. And as the series goes on, the quality increases, and, it finds what it wants to be and it focuses. But in the early episodes, there's just a really big lack of characterization. Like the Thing, like Ben Grimm, he's turned into an orange rock monster, and they barely even have anything dealing with the fact that he may be kind of, upset that he's now a rock monster. There's like one line of dialogue that kind of like, it's like, oh, I'm kind of sad that I'm a rock monster, whatever. And that's just kind of weird. You'd think that maybe he would want to deal with that, because he's a rock monster now, and like that would kind of make a person upset. But no, not in this show. They do deal with that stuff later on in the series, which is awesome that they picked up on that and, and corrected that mistake and actually did something with that later on. But in the beginning, when it really needed to be there, it wasn't there. So that's a big problem with this series for me, is that the early episodes don't do a great job of telling the origin story very well, and there's just a big lack of characterization in those early episodes. But like I said, as the series goes on, those problems really fade away. There's a lot of great episodes here and really faithful adaptations of some of the better stories from the comics. And overall, I really like this animated series. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 6 squatches. See you guys next time. Peace.
All right, it seems like I never begin with Lance. And so this time I want to begin with Lance Edmund Fusion. Oh, he's cutting in and out. Lance!
What? Hello? Hi? Hello?
Yeah. I think we're good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Whew. All right. That's my big moment there. I think that overall he's fairly comfortable in front of the camera, but it is one of those things where when you get somebody doing an unscripted type of thing, you tend to find what their verbal tics are. And in this case, his is, I swear, I feel like, came up in almost every single sentence, at least once, multiple times in some places, And it was never anything extremely
Guilty?
bad enough that it really detracted from the review, but it was something that after a while kind of started like just get my brain, like, okay, stop, please stop. The review itself was good. I mean, I suppose you could count big giant rock monster as his other tick, but that was hilarious. wake up to saying giant rock monster. But
he definitely said the word awesome more often than he said giant rock monster.
That's true, but not as often as you know. Another visually distracting thing for me was I kind of wish he'd just put the DVD down at some point. It was nice as a visual. I don't know if he was going to do something. The actual packaging just felt like he had this hand he could never use because he was too busy waving the packaging around.
I didn't think of that.
And also the way he framed it, he had himself to the edge of the frame and the DVD in the center of the frame. So that's really what your eye's being drawn to, is this wibbly wobbly Fantastic Four thing. So it is one of those things. It was a solid review. I like the way that he compared it to Batman the Animated Series. Content-wise, it was good. I worry that it might get overshadowed by some of the other entries this week because it was just kind of, standard good but standard vlog type of thing.
On a scale, Lance, of 1 to 10. I should say 0 to 4, just for on a scale of 1 to 10, how uncomfortable would you say, or how comfortable would you say he is with this style?
6.5 to 7.
Okay, yeah, that's about where I'm at. Let's hear from Aaron Dicer.
Boy, I agree with a lot of what you just said, and the reason that the verbal tics, in my opinion, and looking at the framing catch your attention is because there isn't anything else to catch your attention. There's nothing in the background. And I'm going to sound like a broken record on a couple of these with this, but if you don't do editing in your video, you have to find a way to do some sort of mental editing for your audience in the frame. They have to have something new to look at or something new to think about. And like you said, you're always thinking about the box, and I think that does detract from what he's doing. Also, I also thought the content was good. I thought he did a great job with the actual content of what was there, but he's speaking off the top of his head in a way that allows him to kind of go in circles in a few places where he repeats himself on a couple things, and also you can see him searching for things a couple times. And that's easy stuff to edit out when you're doing editing, but there has to be some sort of maybe trick you can use to keep yourself kind of on target for what you want to say, whether it be notes or, writing certain sentences or memorizing certain parts or knowing structure. He was very comfortable, I think, going off the top of his head. And because of that, I think he was a little bit probably blind to how that would be received maybe by the audience, if that makes any sense. And I agree with you because I think this one was one of the ones that didn't use enough creativity, in my opinion. There just could have been so much more done, I think, whether it be props to bring in or a different background or movement. No editing doesn't mean no movement. You can move around, and I was surprised by the lack of movement in a lot of these videos. There were only a couple that I thought used movement really well. So yeah, when you can't use the editing to give our brains something to do, you have to find other things to give because our brains operate faster than speaking, right? They operate faster than just listening to somebody talk. They want other things to pull out and focus on, especially when the content is off the top of the head and kind of repeating itself a little bit. So overall, this is not one of my favorites from him. I think he could have used a lot more creativity.
Aaron, a lot of that is the reason that I keep thinking about bringing in a disco ball and dancing girls.
Absolutely,
This show. But yeah, real quick, I want to mention, because I'll forget about it. I want to jump off something you just said, Aaron, because it's really important. You have to have a reason for it to be in video form. If it could just as easily be listened to as audio, what's the point of it being video? Now, I say that, and you watch a lot of our videos, and it is off the cuff, and it's just two people talking, and a lot of that is, for us, is just because we used to do mostly just audio, and then some people like the video, so we just give them the option. But this is a thing that is intended to be watched. Like intended, not optional, but intended. So, fair criticisms. I
have one other thing I wanted to say, just because my worst round when I was in Who Reviews the Reviewers was when I tried to review a full season of an animated series, and so I feel the pain of trying to do that. I got some great instruction about when you're choosing something, narrow it down, and I think he could have used that here as well too. I think there was there was too much, and he could have narrowed down to an episode or something like that, you know.
But on the other hand, until now, you didn't criticize his content. I thought you did a really good job of as an overview review of telling us everything we want to know as to whether or not we might want to watch this thing. I mean, like, it's a really good non-spoiler should I or shouldn't I kind of review.
Yeah, where it rears its ugly head a little bit is where...
In that way, it's better than your Ghostbusters review, I must say.
There are very few things that aren't better than my Ghostbusters
No,
review.
that's not true!
So, no, but where it kind of rears its head a little bit is where he's like, you know, the big rock monster doesn't even talk about, you know, being a big rock monster. Oh, but they do deal with it later on in the season. You know, so it's kind of like, is it a bad thing, or do they actually deal with it, you know, later on? So it's, you know, I wasn't sure whether that was a positive or not.
I didn't have a problem with that. He was complaining that the beginning didn't have enough characterization to it, and where he started to love the series was later on. I got the impression that perhaps when he was a kid, he saw the later stuff first, and then when he went back, he was like, "Oh, the show." He talks about how it's not consistent. I thought that was fine, but
could be.
Yeah, actually, that wasn't. I just noticed watching it this time. It was a fairly interesting way of describing it, where he, you know, it's like people say, you know, if they get into a show, it's like, oh, it gets so much better as it goes on. He came out from the opposite, where it's like, oh, it wasn't nearly as good when it started. It just, I don't know, for some reason that struck me as, yeah, you could be right, Cap, that he just, you know, he came in towards the end and went back, like, oh, well, that's what it was. I don't know. It just seemed bizarrely pessimistic to me.
I'm recommending season 2. You gotta buy all of it to watch that, but just forget that.
How dare they not be as good later on? How dare they not get better how dare they get better as they go along?
Manos, go ahead.
Alright, this is the episode we like to call Mano treads very lightly on what he said.
Oh, okay.
Because
you hate the Fantastic Four, all of them. And,
no, I make videos like this all the time. I have very obvious verbal tics, like and
yeah,
and
too.
And I actually use that. If there's anything people complain about most during our videos, it's like, God, well, Manos, just shut up with the ums and just talk.
You make me look good, Manos, apparently, because I don't get it nearly as often as you do, and I do the same thing.
I know, and you know, I get that in my own videos too, frankly. But
yeah, we are here.
Here's
I'm sorry, real quick. Sorry, what was that? What was that, Aaron? We missed that.
Oh, I just said we are here to ignore the planks in our own eyes. We are here to focus on the spinners and everybody else's. That's why we're here.
That is true.
I mean, it's a show where we're allowed to be self-indulgent. It's our job. We have to act like we sort of know what we're talking about. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron. I mean, Manos.
That's okay.
No.
My name is also Aaron.
No, go ahead, man.
But
I do it with my children.
One of the things I have to watch out in my own videos is that feeling that you're kind of just repeating your own points over and over again. And I've seen that in my own stuff from time to time, like, just saying the same point in different verbiage. That's something to look out for, frankly. I didn't mind him holding up the video. Maybe he did hold it up a little bit too long. I reviewed DVD box sets myself, and you know, I hold up the information as long as I think necessary. I don't hold the box set up the entire video. I think other than that, I thought it was a good video. It's not strong. It's not as strong as his others. I would like to defend the fact that, you know, I think he was talking about characterization in the Fantastic Four show, and I watched the show and I agree. It's pretty much the least they could do in the first season, and the second season I think they tried harder. Maybe that might have been the influence of the Batman animated series, where they watched it and go, oh wow, maybe we should try to make this show better. And I think that comes across, and I agree. I think he made some pretty good points. He made me think about the show a little bit more than I used to. I never really thought it was a great animated series, but you know, he makes me think, well, maybe I should check out the second season, because I barely watched the second season. I would probably have to agree he's a tiny bit uncomfortable, unscripted, but those are pretty much my thoughts on it.
I will say in his defense that while he did have those tics as sort of crutches, there was never a point where he lost where he was going. There was never any dead air.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's a somewhat natural thing that a lot of us will do in order to try to keep that dead air from happening, and it's not always the best, especially when you don't know where you're going.
Let me tell you something.
But at least there's no dead air, because of course I'd rather listen to someone going for a really long time than
some people
Serenity?
just get really irritated by it. I've had people complain to me all the time, like not just on your videos, but on my own videos. I have a couple that people go, "Oh man, script your videos, you idiot!" And I have some. I've had some dead air problems myself. Like I just recorded a new video about the 45 new titles in Marvel, and I was reading them off my computer as I was going by. And the first time I recorded it, my computer froze and could not scroll down or anything like that. So I tried to like solve for a few minutes, and then it was a few minutes. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna turn this video off and start.
Let's listen to this lovely elevator music while Lindsay goes and gets me a second computer.
Oh my god, doing that video was a nightmare. And all I was doing was just reading a list and reacting, and it took me like 3 tries to do it correctly.
The best solution is to sing The Way We Were.
Yes.
That's always the go-to, the fallback. Anyway,
that was the old from Ipanema, but
I've got a few notes real quick. I understand the conventional wisdom to a degree of let's not have anything in the background that would distract us from our subject. There are lots of people that that have backgrounds that are just too loud and are eye-catching, and it's difficult for you to pay attention to what the person's saying, especially if they're not engaging and livening things up enough themselves. If he were speaking with his hands more and a little bit more animated, I probably wouldn't have. I would have noticed it, but it wouldn't have been such a drab-looking background, or at least it wouldn't have. it wouldn't have struck me as such. But I think he's either looking at previous contests, or he's just seen a pattern of successful people not having a lot of stuff in the background. You get people like Jeremy Johns that have not a solid color background but a gradient. So he might be thinking along those kinds of lines. Part of the problem is just the way it was lit. There's so many stray shadows and stuff that that's distracting as well. But I would suggest to him for a thing like that, have maybe a little more going on in the background, but just make it look like there's some forethought put into it. That was really the biggest problem for me, was just that it looked like kind of a last-minute decision. Where am I going to shoot this? I don't do videos like this. I don't want it. The problem is it screams, I don't want to be on camera without editing back and forth and not always being on camera. And that was the big thing for me, was that it just kind of seemed like the video was saying, I don't really want to do it like this. It's not, it's not terrible, and it's not always really uncomfortable, but it really does kind of say that in the way it's framed. Yeah, Lance.
Well, I still think that ties into his framing too, because you wouldn't be seeing as much of that drab wall if he was actually closer into the frame. You get so much of that wall because he's off to the corner, and most reviewers who tend to be offside of the frame have like a picture-in-picture kind of thing, an overlay and editing kind of thing. But when you don't have that, you just have the wall.
I've said some other things earlier, so this is the last point I'm going to make, and I agree with a lot of you guys, especially about the content is good, and I didn't have any problem there. I'm going to give him I'm going to give him big props for standing. I know that sounds like a really little thing, but he would be probably even a lot less energetic if he was sitting in a chair. I think that what energy is there comes from the fact that he's got kind of a center of gravity. But yeah, like Lance, like you said, I didn't even think about the fact that he's holding that the whole day. And you're right, a lot of it comes from that. He's kind of turned himself into a wax model, and he's not allowed to move except for here and here, and that's it. It would have. I mean, he could have even literally put that on a pedestal, and it would have been better. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it. We really do need to move along. I'm with you guys. It's not his best video, but it's certainly not bad by any stretch of the imagination. But certainly not one of the best for me. This challenge, as far as finding creative ways to handle this weird thing I asked people to do. Moving on to Mr.
Nobody made them do it.
See, don't tell them that, or the next time they don't like a challenge, they'll just be like, you know what? Screw it. I don't have to be here. Nobody's forcing me to do this.
What's it supposed to be?
I guess you're not gonna get a shot at my $500. Oh my god, I'm giving away the ending. Hold on. All right, now we're going to go on to Mr. Goodplot, and the title of his video is Mr. Goodplot Reviews a Toy Called Fuleco. You might as well have just written in the title, no one knows what this is! Let's watch.
What we are looking at today is a rare specimen called Fuleco. What is Fuleco, you ask? Well, don't let the obvious fake accent fool you. I was raised 70% American and 30% Brazilian, and Brazil happened to be having the honors of holding the world.
Ah, I did it again. Sorry, folks.
What?
This might happen.
Everybody freezing their
just
videos.
1 year ago this month, and with that came the task of creating a mascot to go with that sucker event. And so they settled on a chibi armadillo named Fuleco, with all kinds of merchandising possibilities. Let's take a better look at one of the hollow plastic family.
Yeah, I know people with hollow plastic families.
Look at this little guy. Isn't he a beaut? He's so beautiful. Just 3 points of articulation, and that is it. Just 3. Head and arms. A couple of paint splotches here and there, but nothing too major. Anyway, I am not that much of an expert on soccer. In fact, not at all. But I do know that apparently the goalie is the only one who is allowed to handle the soccer ball with his hands. So if you're not a goalie, then red card. But either way, the soccer ball he's holding feels redundant. Not that he could let go of it anyway, but it's just that the visual element of soccer is already implanted into him. In his anatomy specifically. I mean, look at him. It's like they spliced him together with a soccer ball in a lab somewhere, a secret Evo lab. Not my secret Evo lab, because it's non-existent because I can't afford one, but anyway, I happen to be a fan of armadillos, but this guy does not seem like a good representation. I mean, if you took away his head plate and his shell, he could easily pass off as just a baby deer. Probably because they gave him a puppy dog nose instead of a more appropriate pig-like nose. And also, an armadillo shell is supposed to take up most of their body. And with this guy, it's like they thought, oh, that would make him look too fat because he's a soccer mascot. So let's give him a fit, human-like body and just stick on the shell as a afterthought. As a result, it seems less like a shell and more like a leech or a parasitic bug that has latched itself onto his body and is sucking out all of his blood. But a stylistic choice I do like is the universal cute factor. You got the classic big oversized head and big oversized detailed eyes right out of the littlest pet shop. But now I looked this guy up online to see his price. I got this guy as a gift, by the way, so I didn't have to worry about price. But he is around $60 on eBay. Yeah. So if you're looking for this guy, I'd go for the plushie version because there's a lot more available and they're a lot less expensive. So now when you grow from a small child to a serious toy collector, you tend to specify your sensibilities. I've currently narrowed down mine to a specific type of scale, and a specific amount of articulation, and a specific style. And this guy does not meet up to those specifications, but I still enjoy keeping him on display because he is a fond reminder of what I used to look forward to getting as a child. Now comes the point where I must release him back into the wild. Be free, Fuleco. Be free. Be free. Oh God, he's trying to get his dominance. Oh, he's trying to maintain his dominance. Help me, Mr. Good.
I had to ask one question. Who is a fan of armadillos?
Mr. Goodplot, were you not watching the video?
Yeah.
who actually, I hit one with my car once.
I was going to say, certainly not the people who have to clean them off the street around here. They're all over the place.
Yeah, not anybody that's ever lived in southern Arkansas, man. Jeez. I want to start this time with Airdicer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was being sad about the armadillos.
Yeah, well, now you got to put
I'm happy about armadillos.
Aaron, you got to put your personal feelings aside.
All right, I can focus. This was great, right? I mean, sense of humor was so good. He didn't lose it when he lost the editing. He was creative about his space. He went outside, which I think is a brilliant choice in a round like this because it is expansive and there's plenty to catch your eye when you might be distracted. And I loved that choice. I love that he put a structure to the review in that he was going to find the creature and then he had some the creature at the end was going to assert its dominance and he even had the robot. He even included his robot in there for the grade, which I thought was brilliant. Was really, really cool. He really worked around kind of the confiscation of the rules to be able to be creative, and I really thought that was good. The content itself is a little shallow, but it's there. And really, at the end of the day, what do you talk about with a toy? He talked about the articulation, he talked about the design, and I don't really know, where else you go from that. So I guess he covered the things that he could. I guess maybe I would have wanted more on, the purpose of the toy, if it fulfilled that. Although, he did talk about the cuteness and he talked about, maybe kids would enjoy it. So I think that stuff is there. I thought this was really good. I love that he got on his knees so that he was framed right. I love that, he had thought enough ahead of time to figure out what the framing would be and did that. I was really impressed with this. Really impressed.
I was too. I'll go ahead and go now. I think it's kind of fun that I'm sitting here like, how does this work? Oh yeah, I don't need to put my own head really big on the screen. Anyway, I think it's kind of fun that a lot of the criticism is really humorous, and while a lot of that you might say is just kind of like fun, jokey fishing for criticism because it's a 4-minute review, and maybe this is sort of a safe choice because it's a pretty it's an easy thing because you don't expect a whole lot of critical analysis, and so you can really kind of go any direction you want to and have a lot of fun with it. But on the other hand, a lot of the things that he was joking about while he was in those kind of humorous criticisms were things that I actually couldn't help but agree with him on. So I mean, like I don't know how much of that was just being funny and silly, and how much of it really was. Well, if you guys are gonna say it's an armadillo, make a thing that looks like an armadillo. And like his thing about the soccer ball. It's really funny. It's a great joke. The goalie thing had me in stitches, but it's a fair criticism. Why in the world does he have to hold one? It's obvious that he's a soccer mascot. That's fantastic. Really, the one big gripe I've got is that there's no reason whatsoever at the end, and it goes on for a little too long for my taste, for him to talk about his own personal sensibilities for what he collects now, especially given that he's vague about it and we don't know what they are, and he gets too personal in the wrong kind of way, where it's like, I own this because I'm part Brazilian and I think it's cool to have that, and so I keep it around on display. I sort of appreciate that, but I don't know what the point was of saying like this doesn't fit the scale of things I collect. That was kind of that was kind of TMI for me. I just didn't really, not in like a gross way, but I didn't need that. That was somewhat pointless, I thought. Also, the framing device of getting it from the wild and sending it back to the wild. I thought he could have gone further with that. I thought that he kind of breaks out and then goes back to it, where like it sort of it feels very quickly like because at first it's like we're out in the wild and it's a nature show, and then very quickly it's I bought this thing and it wasn't as maybe it wasn't as expensive when I got it, and then later on let's send it back to the wild. And I just felt like he had a framing device that he broke out of, and since he does this through a fictional lens, he can go all the way with stuff like that. He can pretend like he's actually just now finding it and do that kind of thing. And I think you could kind of get away with that anyway, but he really can because he's a fictional character. But anyway, those are my only gripes. I thought this was absolutely fabulous. One of his best reviews. Yeah, that's what I've got to say. Manos!
I loved it!
Okay, Lance, no.
That's that's almost all I have to add.
Oh, okay.
You guys, hit a lot of good points. I will agree. I thought the framing device was ingenious. I am assuming maybe he found what he wanted to review first, like, oh, here's a...
No, he just went out there, and there it was.
And it's like, oh, this is an animal. Okay, I'll do a nature show. And that was a good way to tie it in, and without... It gave us enough of a framing device to work with without being too much into it. Like, you know, he didn't have to do anything too elaborate. I thought he did a pretty wonderful job in the time allotted and the fact that he's a fictional character, reviewing this really kind of almost pointless chunk of plastic that's supposed to be a toy. I mean, he humorously addresses the issues, like you said, because, you know, frankly, there's not much to talk about. I think he really does find a way to, you know, get us into you know, what it's like to have this toy, and even like goes so much to find out how much it costs. $60. Ugh, no, I would not pay $60 for that thing. I will disagree partly with him getting into his own background, which I thought was a little refreshing because we got a little bit out of his character for a second. And if he's talking about, like, hey, you know, not the biggest soccer fan in the world, but I am Brazilian, you know, that is kind of a cultural thing. So
yeah, but we had it already. I mean, like, we had that at the beginning. Why did we need any of that at the end? Especially if he was going to be as vague as he was.
I don't know. I don't think it was too distracting, personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The joke at the end is fantastic. And yeah, he was able to take his show on the road and do it really flawlessly.
He should have been like, the shell just came off and it's sucking my blood out now.
Don't write his show.
He's gonna wish he thought of it. Lance Fusion.
This is really weird for me because
you hated it.
I'm wondering if I was just like in a really angry mood for the 3 minutes that I watched this originally.
Where is it? There it is. There it is.
Because I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy it the first time I watched it. When I watched it just now, I enjoyed it so much more than I did before. So I don't know what happened. Like my notes seem kind of out of place, but at the same time, like a lot of the criticism that's come up has sort of made me think about it in different ways too. I actually do kind of agree with you on that, James. That about the use of the framing.
That's Captain Logan for those of you that don't know.
To a certain degree, it actually really worked. Like when he really went out of his way to call attention to it, like with my fake accent, it kind of gave him some leeway to, you know, stretch the boundaries of his character and get out of it for a moment. But there were certain points, sort of like I kind of agree with what you said about the end, where it just kind of felt slightly off point, or it's slightly too far pushing the boundaries of that character. I do kind of wish he'd taken the nature show thing further. I really wish that I'm assuming he put a camera on a tripod outside. Yeah. And was shooting it by himself and just sort of ducked out of frame to grab the robot to put it up there at the end. But
no. I think he used CG.
Oh, well then, red card.
But I think it would have been nice if he'd had actually had a camera operator to follow him as he's hunting down this figure, especially because once he grabs it and turns back around, there is those few moments where, like, wait, what's he saying? He's too far away from the camera. I can't hear him anymore. Come back with the. It just would have seemed a bit more natural if he'd like, come on, follow me. We're gonna go hunt down the armadillo. But other than that, that's great. I obviously you can't go as in depth as you can or a toy is a narrative, but I really do think it. Pretty much every relevant point did so under the guise of humor. I don't think it was lacking in it.
Hey Lance, just so you know, your internet is starting to cut in and out on us like it was a couple rounds ago. So if there's anything you can do about it, I'll work on that for us. Anybody have anything else they want to say about this one before we move on?
I could have used an explanation on the name. Did I miss that? Did he talk about why it's called Fuleko at all?
No, he didn't.
That seemed. I mean, it could just be something they named it, but that would have been even a nice, aside of, they gave it this weird name Fuleko, or it means something in, some language, or that was one thing that I wanted to know that I didn't end up knowing.
It would be hilarious if it was an acronym.
That would be. It starts with FU. So I don't know.
Right, what could that mean?
Oh, wow! This armadillo has an attitude, man. This is the Knuckles of the armadillo universe. Wow.
I also would love to see refs in real soccer handle red cards like he handled it with that armadillo. Slap him aside the head. Red card for you, and slap him aside the head.
That was hilarious. As soon as you said that, I just couldn't even believe he went there. That was hilarious.
I just want to say thank you, Lance. I had no idea how the robot showed up from behind the camera like that. You're right. He must have just went behind the camera and put it in front of it. That's incredible.
So, since everybody else commented on it, I will weigh in. I side with Manos. I didn't find the personal stuff distracting at the end. I found it to be a natural part of what he was doing. So.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't want to argue with you guys too much, and it's kind of fun that we're 2-on-2 on it, but the only other thing I feel the need to say real quick is that Lance, for me, it wasn't even a breaking character. I would have cried foul if anybody had done that. Just because I just don't know why it's relevant. That's all I'm saying. And the thing is, if he had a shorter, if it was 3 minutes, he would never have gone there because he had more time when he was filming it. So I mean, like, and again, it's a minor point, but it was the one quibble I had. So
Sure.
And now that I said, I think I had another quibble that I mentioned, but that was the one that's on my mind right now that I cared about at all. Okay, moving right along, shall we? Okay, here we go. Let's watch another review, and 10 seconds in, find out that somebody added in black in for no reason, and we told them not to edit.
All disqualified.
Oh, why are they doing that? Why? Okay, we're gonna move on now to Comics Kids' review of John Carter, and we begin right now.
Hey guys, the Comics Kid 2099 here, Jedak of YouTube. I'm here to talk about the 2012 film John Carter. This is a story you've seen many times before. The story of someone who loses their family and is thrust into this big, exciting space adventure. But while movies like Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy do incredibly well, this movie kind of fails financially speaking anyway. Why is that? I think the big reason is budget. This movie had a $260 million budget, but it only made about $70 million while it was in theaters. Meanwhile, the Guardians of the Galaxy had a $170 million budget, but it made almost twice that while it was in theaters. If you have a smaller budget, chances are you're going to have a bigger profit. I even know that, and I'm not even a Jedak of business school. Having said that, a lot of movies that have such a huge budget like this tend to have a whole lot of CGI, and this movie does have a lot of CGI, but while most movies could get away with using a little bit more practical effects, which would be cheaper, this movie really doesn't have any moment where it could use the practical effects instead of the CGI. So that may be a big reason why the budget was so high, but that's also a big reason why this movie failed, at least financially speaking. Having said that, this movie is terrific fun. It is one of my favorite space adventure movies now after seeing it, and there's several reasons for that. Now, I read the book about 7 years ago, and if you haven't read the book, none of this is going to mean anything to you, but this movie actually changes some things from the book, and it makes the story better. Number one, it changes the character of Dejah Thoris. In the early 1900s, women were looked at very differently than they were in the early 2000s. Women are actually people and human beings and characters, and this movie knows that, while the book doesn't really know that. In the book, Dejah Thoris was basically just a trophy to be won by male characters. In the movie, she's a historian, she's an academician, she can take care of herself with a sword, and I like that this movie changes her up and actually makes her a character. That is definitely improvement in my opinion. Also, this movie adds some villains who weren't in the book. Now, for all I know, they were in one of the sequels by Burroughs, but they weren't in the first book. And these guys are actually manipulating the bad guy of the book, the Warlord of Zoldenga, and they are basically puppet masters, and he's just kind of one of their minions. And I was totally fine with this, at least on paper, because the Warlord of Zoldenga really isn't that interesting in the book, and he's not super interesting in the movie. So I was totally fine with having some different bad guys in this movie. The problem is, these bad guys who are manipulating the Zoldenga guy, they don't really have any motivations that are explored in this movie. We don't know why they are trying to foment this civil war on Mars. We know that they're doing it, and Mark Strong, who leads the bad guys, he's a terrific actor, and every time I'm on screen, I am in love with him. But his motivations aren't really explored, and that's one of my big problems with this movie. The other big problem I have is that John Carter himself isn't really proactive for about half the movie. For the first half of the part where he's on Mars, all he wants to do is get back to Earth, and that's understandable. If you are stranded on a strange and foreign planet and you want to get back home, I totally get that. But there comes a certain point where I want to see him start acting like a hero and stop acting so selfish, and that comes way too late in the movie, in my humble opinion. This movie is really fun, really great. It does have some flaws, but I was able to overcome those flaws and enjoy this movie. In fact, watching this movie, I became angry. So angry that I determined anyone who went to see Guardians of the Galaxy in theaters and didn't go to see John Carter, you are going to get a punch in the face sometime in the future. Everyone else, I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys all in the future with another video, or with a punch in the face when you least expect it.
All right, let's begin with the real Manos.
Let me tell you one thing. You even dream about punching me in the face, you better wake up and apologize.
Manos, I gotta tell you, man. I've always thought, you know, this whole all these years we've done this, you're very impressive, but you're not a Jedek yet. That's all I'm saying. You're not.
Sure. Outside of me just joking around, I thought this was a pretty good video, pretty good, strong review. I thought he really does break into why, and he sells, you know, how much he enjoys this movie. He even brings up the points of like the female lead, the different villains they use. I mean, he basically he takes the case, he pitches the case for this movie where everyone in the world has pretty much decided it was a bomb and no one cares. He even went so far to dress up like Sean Connery from Zardoz to make his point. So
did we not laugh enough at that? That was funny.
So yeah, I thought this was a pretty strong video, actually. What do you guys think?
Aaron?
I agree.
Aaron!
I agree. I think it's a very strong video. Comics Kid was one I was really interested to see how he would do with this, because he's very much about writing his reviews, and he writes very, very well.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so to see him deliver something, whether he's written it beforehand or not, but to have to be on the screen the entire time and deliver it, I was really impressed. I thought he did a really, really good job with that. I also love that he got in costume and he put an axe in the background. You know, he did get a little creative with the background and gave us something to look at and to think about. I was a little bit put off by how long he talked about the financials. It seemed as if they're, you know, I get that part of this review is about that it's considered a bomb, and so he probably does need to go there. But it did feel like he spent a lot of time comparing it to Guardians and comparing their budgets and, you know, talking about lower budget is going to end up making more money, and none of that gets us closer to understanding if the movie's any good, really. Yeah. It just gives us context. Context is fine, but it seemed like more context than we needed, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. The budget, yeah, I mean, the budget, not making it and might help your case and, you know, why it bombed, but, you know, even if the film had cost like maybe $100 million less, I know it didn't do that well at all.
No, it didn't. And I'm honestly, I'm glad to see anybody defending the movie. I actually enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. I think John Carter's a good watch. But overall, there was something about the review that I thought spent a little too much time on context and not necessarily on the meat. Having said that, when he does get to the meat, it's really good meat. He goes into it really well, I think, and talks about, you know, the things that worked for him and the things that didn't. So overall, I still think it's a great review.
Okay, let's go ahead and hear from Lance.
I think I'm going to be a bit of a dissenting voice for this one. While I do agree that the comment was good, I remember when you asked me during Squatch Gang to rate how comfortable he was on camera, and I said 6.5 or something. I'd have to say in this case, for Comics Kid, it's more like a 4 at best.
Maybe it's because he was shirtless.
Again, it's not where he has any dead air or loses where he's going. In fact, it almost seems kind of the opposite, where it almost seemed like he was either reading or had very quickly memorized this, because he just zoomed through this whole thing. It was just I didn't like delivery very much. He steamrolled over his own jokes.
Importantly, I think we should mention that Fusion hasn't liked his delivery the entire contest. Like no, but I should mention that you've been the one voice almost every week, if memory serves. I should not call it that. The last several months of the 4 times we've done this, you've said his delivery doesn't sound natural. He sounds kind of monotone. You keep saying that.
I think that's probably his general delivery. I think that's his general pacing. Of course, we don't know him personally, so maybe he just always talks like that.
Yeah, but it also seems
hey, Lance, how you doing?
It's not that far off from his conversational timbre in his interviews. I mean, weirdly enough, it's not. So.
Yeah, but in this case, it almost didn't even seem like he was actually listening to what he was saying. There was at least one point where it caused the day where he saying every time I'm on screen, I'm in love with him. And he just kept on. He didn't even notice that he totally misstated what he was saying. And then it's the same thing at the end where he talks about how angry he is, but it's the exact same inflection as everything else. So I don't know. Although the joke he made at the end about the punch in the face, where he actually did give himself time, give himself a moment to actually deliver that joke, it worked a lot better than the rest of the bits of humor where he just zip through it and didn't give it a chance to actually cement itself with us. But I agree, the content itself is really good. He knows this stuff. He's obviously a fan. He obviously did his research, and the review itself is very, very solid. I just didn't like the presentation that much.
Well, I guess I'm going to be somewhat of Debbie Downer as well in a different direction. I was overall not real impressed with this one. Should
I take my shirt off too?
Yeah, that'll make us all more comfortable.
Yeah.
Now I just have this weird mental picture of Manos not wearing a shirt but still having headphones on. I don't know why it's funny in my brain, but it's funny in my brain. I don't do that. Anyway, but
I will do it.
He's got disgust. I don't think that's the first time you pulled that out. Anyway, okay, so middle of the review, once he starts actually getting into the actual story and how it's delivered and put together, and I especially really appreciated his insights, having actually read the book and knowing this material, this being a thing that clearly he was excited about, that he was hoping it would make other people excited about, and it just didn't work out that way. I thought all that stuff was really good. What was around it was just focused on the wrong stuff and was too much of the review. Maybe not half, but like a minute and a half. I mean, like quite a bit of it. And if he's got to go there at all, I don't know. It just felt to me, I'm so confused because I'm with Lance. It feels kind of red to me, and then at the same time, some of what he's saying sounds like the kind of stuff that you would come up with off the cuff when you're not real sure of yourself, and then maybe later on you look at it and be like, I'm not really sure if I communicated what I meant to communicate, and that might sound really harsh, and I hope that I'm, that I'm not, stepping on his toes or whatever, and that it wasn't like, no, I meticulously planned that, and how dare you say that, but I'm just saying, that's how it came off to me. I don't think, sorry to say it like this, I don't think the point makes any sense, when he's talking about, budgets and stuff. I don't understand why he doesn't discuss how the film was advertised and merchandised. Because the reason the film wasn't successful was because nobody knew about it. I mean, that was a lot of it, is that it wasn't advertised very well. I've gone to Tidal with that movie a lot. A lot of people don't know that source material. They didn't know what John Carter was, and so a lot of people just didn't even go to it. I brought this up on some other videos, but it's so funny because I still have never actually sat down and watched the thing myself, so he's going to punch me in the face. But I thought it was so weird the way they marketed that movie, and that they didn't put the word Mars in it, because unless you saw previews, and they weren't played as often as I expected them to be, you wouldn't know what exactly it was, and Disney came back with, well, we were just afraid that women wouldn't go see a movie with the word Mars in it, and it was so weird to me. So, I don't know.
Yes, women hate the movie, anything about Mars. They just,
Yeah, and yet they went out of their way to try to have a strong female...
For Mars.
No. it's because Mars tried to kidnap women in the 50s. Remember that?
Oh yeah, no, I forgot all about that.
They've never forgiven Mars.
They're much more fans of Snickers.
But that's so weird. But that's so weird after the point he made. After the point he made about the fact that we have a strong female protagonist out of one that wasn't. It's so weird that they went that far to try to make sure that it was more all inclusive. Or maybe they just wanted to make a character that was more interesting. And then they're all women, won't see movie. Anyway, so maybe part of my problem is that I feel like I know a little bit of something about why that movie wasn't successful, and he doesn't touch on that. But I just didn't understand the budget thing. He even brings up how much Guardians cost, and it's like, well, if this movie had cost as much as Guardians was, it still wouldn't have performed. I don't really understand what you're talking about, especially because later on he's discussing the fact that the CG that was in the film is necessary, and so he's basically making a case. And you're right. I love that he's Aaron that he's making a case for the movie, and he makes a good case. I just wish that he spent more time actually discussing the material in the film, because when he's talking about the CG, he's at first it sounds like he's criticizing it for that, and it felt unfocused. At first it was like he's criticizing it. It was a failure commercially, and it had too big of a budget. But then later on he basically says it had to have that much of a budget to do what it wanted to do. The CG was necessary. You couldn't have done it practical, and so I just don't know why he spends so much time on that. I mean, like, if he had more firmly come down and said, it's that way, I mean, like maybe this was just inevitable that people weren't ready for this material on screen and this is how it was going to work out. But he seems like, and I don't know if it's just a joke at the end, he seems annoyed at people for not seeing it, but I feel like the reason they didn't see it was because they just didn't know about it. So anyway, I just, like I was frustrated because he's not discussing the material itself as nearly as much as he ought to, and it felt like it was accidental. It almost felt like he didn't mean to spend that much time on it. I think it would have been served by just another take. Lance, you mentioned the his flub up when he said when I'm on screen. He just needed to take another take, I think. But
I do think as he went along, he seemed more comfortable as he went along.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I think definitely not there to get him to loosen up a bit.
Lance, you're all over the place too. Your internet is unfocused. And
sorry,
Lance Headroom.
I'm League of Legends right now and stealing all my bandwidth.
I don't want to sound like I have nothing positive to say about this. His presentation, Lance didn't like his delivery. I liked his physical presentation. I thought doing it that way was really funny. I liked that he was willing to take that kind of a silly risk. It reminded me actually a little bit of Lance Fusion first season, who would wear anything, and it was always really fun. I really enjoyed that. He'll put on anything. And so anyway, yeah, and again, the stuff in the middle's fine, but I don't know. So I guess I'm the harshest of us on this one. Besides Lance.
Well, I mean, I said the same thing. I totally agree with you. There's way too much on the context and not enough on the meat. And the other part of it is, it seems that he is really setting it up as Guardians versus John Carter, and I'm not sure where that comes from. That why he's picking on that. I mean, he even brings it back at the joke at the end of punching people in the face who saw Guardians but didn't see John Carter. Like, I just didn't understand.
As if Guardians is such a bad movie that made a lot of money.
Well, right, or as if that's if that somehow that's they're the same, And
yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he was kind of getting at, if you liked Guardians, you should like this movie. I never did sit down and watch John Carter, but I feel like they are.
It's okay, you're in the majority, my friend.
But I've read some. But I actually have to say that in college I read some of Burroughs, and it's not quirky slapstick laugh out loud fun. Like it's not the same thing. And so but again, it is an interesting comparison to make. Marvel's sold Guardians in a way that made people want to see it. That's it. But
I think it's possible you could even make the case, because Disney, was part of the Guardians.
Well, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, same people.
And it seems like one of the cases you can make about John Carter failing is the Disney studio ran away from the whole space thing.
Yeah, they didn't believe it.
They embraced it with Guardians. Mm-hmm. So you could make the case that the studio learned their lesson from that film.
Yeah, they just didn't believe in it. I mean, maybe the problem isn't that the film cost too much to make, but that they didn't use nearly enough of the budget that they had on selling it to people, which is an important part of the whole thing. People have to
you need to trust your movie. You need to drink your own Kool-Aid. You need to sell it.
When that came out, did you guys hear anything about it? Hardly, because I mean, there wasn't all that much out about it.
I didn't. No.
I heard a little bit.
Sorry, what Aaron?
I just said I did a review, so I was aware of it. But
well, yeah, but you're aware of everything. You go to everything, regardless of. Yeah. You know what, Aaron? You don't count. Whenever I cast a wide net like that, we're talking about movies. You just count yourself out. You professional critic. You. I shouldn't even use air quotes. He is a professional critic, which is hilarious hearing him call me boss because he actually gets paid to review things. I
didn't see either John Carter or Guardians of the Galaxy. So who punches me?
Groot.
Hey, you should see Guardians.
Groot.
It's really good.
But yeah, Guardians is really good. Groot punches you.
No.
Yay!
You. Anger punches you.
Okay, I feel kind of bad for ragging on Comics Kid the way I have, because I'm disappointed because I have really enjoyed him so far, and I'm really not happy with this one. Anybody else have anything else? I was hoping you guys would fight me more. I was hoping there'd be more rebuttal about that. And the silence is deafening. Okay, anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I can rebut. I would certainly again rebut. I've already said this, but I will repeat it since you threw it out there.
Yeah.
I really thought he did a good job with the delivery. I thought that he was the one that I was most interested in.
I'm not complaining as much about that. I really like Lance.
Yeah, that's Lance's thing.
Just importantly, I don't have.
I stand by what I said.
Yeah, sure. No, you should.
I've grown to kind of I've grown to like his delivery because I don't know. I feel like there's kind of a fun rhythm to it that I like, especially when he gets into jokes and he kind of speeds. I don't really mind him. Like, I don't know if I just describe it as speeding through jokes. I kind of just like the fast pacedness of it.
Is it deadpan? Can we describe it that way?
It's deadpan. I would.
See, Lance isn't buying it, or does it come across to those of us that don't really know what's happening as deadpan, according to Lance?
Shakespeare's the comedy.
No, we don't need to hear from you right now. You just hush up and wait a second.
Yeah, you.
Losing points for that.
Why is Connor always interrupting me? He's not even here live. God. Your Shakespeare can wait. Anyway, I'm sorry. What, Lance?
I wouldn't think they're at least not purposefully deadpan. It's just kind of one note to me. I mean, not in a particular style of one note. It just kind of.
It reminds me a lot, and he's not here to talk about this, but it reminds me a lot of Superhero Enthusiast. I mean, he got a lot of criticism from you guys for the same kind of stuff, for being monotone and not using facial expressions and those kind of things during our season. And I think it's just a style thing of some people that they can deliver the content in that kind of steady paced thing. And if you can, it's almost like Shakespeare, which with Connor coming up, this is appropriate. It's almost like Shakespeare in that after you start listening to it for a while, you start understanding it more. You start getting into it more. You just kind of fall into their rhythm. And that's how I am with superhero stuff, and that's how I kind of am with Comics Kid stuff.
Now,
too.
arguably, that's hugely risky.
It is. Sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
like if the pay, and I'm not saying content, if the pacing and the rhythm and the overall style and delivery is such an acquired, potentially acquired taste that you need 5, 6, 10 videos, it can be difficult to amass an audience if that's the way people are looking at you. I didn't have that problem as much with Enthusiast as Lance seems to be having here with. I love singling Lance out, especially when his internet doesn't let him defend himself as much.
I would.
He's moving in bullet time.
Yeah, I would refer to those wise words from Sheila E. The rhythm is going to get you.
Yes.
On that note, let's. Oh my God, that was the best segue in the universe for Shakespeare, and let's move on right now to Comedy Bears. This is Connor's really interesting review. Let's get right into it, shall we? Here we go. Onward.
Yes.
Theoretically.
Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors is but the first of 18 comedies of his. First performed around 1592, it's the Bard's shortest, and not one of his big hits today, though it was quite popular back then. A man and his slave come to Ephesus when, looking for their long-lost twins who bear names the same as theirs, whilst folk know not they have came from Syracuse, Ephesians' wartime foe. Hilarities ensue, then off to home you go. Though not deep by any means of the mind, Shakespeare proved himself to be one of a kind with wordplay, and began to show off here, his swift and smart language being the start clear. That start language being different too. You know iambic pentameter, do you? A style hip in this time where you find 10 syllables in a line, 10 in a line, only broken on occasion when need. Here in errors though, there doth beeth no heed. The pattern is broken all of the time, and most of the lines in this play are of rhyme, but this break in 10 is still patterned fine. 10 syllables a line, 11 a line, 10, 11, 10, 11, and so, and sometimes this pattern breaks too and goes prose. The 10-11 pattern is most used in the format in which I speak it to you. Don't believe me? Don't have a conniption. Instead, why don't you check it the description? The rhyming is to increase the pacing, and extra syllable lines keep flow racing. Therefore, the pace is to be lightning quick. Apart from the pace, the meter doesn't stick to one form for unpredictable tone. Fitting for subject matter, travelers alone in a town known for its spook and witchcraft. Identity's mistaken, but it's daft. An absurd, light, unpredictable farce, come complete with humorous beatings and arse. So how did I feel about this play? I thoroughly enjoy it. Let's count the ways. 1. The jokes doth make me laugh plentiful. Shakespeare, being the master of words and all, writes jokes that can be read so many ways. 2. With the long-winded jokes, the humor stays sharp, most of them not wearing their welcome. So 2 or 3 recurring gags, they aren't dumb when they choose to pop up from time to time. 3. The characters, though, as deep as a dime, are colorful archetypes whose troubles make you laugh, and don't try to pretend and lull to act as something deeper than they be. The men and their slaves, those are respectively, the Antipholus and the Dromio, are the straight men and clowns who telleth the jokes. 4. The humor is not of contrivance, rather it springeth from inconvenience. This course I see fit as more natural than that of, say, Midsummer Night's Dream so foul. Before I move into matters less neat, there's something I like, but you might give some heat. Yes, I'm speaking here about the humor. I laugh, but 'tis not for every consumer. I see it Shakespeare's stoner comedy. What, with fat jokes, fart jokes, phallic jokes? Really? Par for the course if you know your Shakespeare, but could be off-putting since that's all that's here. I wouldn't find it at all humorous, but 'tis so cleverly written I don't fuss. There's a single fat joke that runs 2 pages, and in a single scene, in successive rage, fart joke, phallic joke, vaginal joke too, it'd be enough to make grandma's face all blue. But the story's not without its faults. One scene in particular brings to a halt the story for a gag that goes nowhere, nor is it called back this humor about hair between the Syracusians in Act 2. Out of place, long-winded, nor funny in lieu. Also in tunage with plays of this time is in Act 5, another complaint of mine. Everyone needs to talk and explain what it is they've done throughout the play in rain of monologue after monologue long. We've already seen the play and know the wrong of their decisions, but they need to talk as characters to know what happened and walk into the sunset for the happy end. Though understandable for its time, I tend to see these as wastes of time and of breath. This storytelling method is outdated. As I wind down this review, I thank you for putting up with this style I review. If you enjoy good Shakespeare comedies, The Comedy of Errors is one of these. Well-written crest jokes and thin yet fun folks fill this light farce of quite hilarious woes. Till next review, I'll see you again. I'll give this foolish play an 8 out of 10.
Oh. I'm gonna go ahead and start off in this one. Now, I might be wrong about this. It is entirely possible. But I can't help but think that, man, I wish that when I'm in the middle of some kind of a contest or a thing where like people are giving me assignments to do, that I just happen to be going to college with these great things just like ready for me to talk about because I've been studying them. Now I might be wrong about that, but it sure feels that way, and he's just really got this kind of Matt's got that a little bit too. This kind of leg up an advantage because he's currently going to school and studying. So I mean, a lot of the sharp wit that Connor's showing right now comes from being being in that kind of environment all the time. Boy, I wish I still had that. I am so envious of him not being in school anymore. Every time I watch him, I'm like, oh, I used to be that guy. Oh. This really comes off like this is a thing that he didn't have to look at for the first time, or even it hadn't even been very long doing this particular review. That's not a problem at all. I'm just saying that he is using probably where he's at right now to his advantage, and yet. Is it not also kind of a neat risk? You're going to review an entire Shakespeare play in 4 minutes, and you're going to try to be critical of Shakespeare. That's like that by itself doesn't sound all that easy to me. And I think he does that pretty deftly. As far as being using that gimmick and having a framework that reflects the thing that he's reviewing, I think he does a better job with this than he did even Birdman. It has the same thing that did, and I guess I'm mostly saying that because I thought the content was better and sharper than that review, and I liked how in depth he was able to get. Some of that's he's got an extra minute, but I appreciated that. Birdman was a little bit more of an overview. Kind of Vega review it had to be, but this was just really cool to see him get into that stuff, and yet you didn't have. I don't think you had to know the play to follow what he was talking about. What this has in common, what I was going to say with Birdman that really works and helps it a lot, is that he's able to show people what the play is like without having to describe it too much, because he's just inherently he's doing that style. So if you listen to him reviewing in that style and you're like, man, I don't want to have to listen to that for 2 hours, then you might not want to look at that play. And I kind of like that. I was even okay with him at the end saying thanks for putting up with me doing it in this style. Like that was kind of okay with me because it's like sometimes it would irritate. I don't know why it didn't. Sometimes it would irritate me that you would even acknowledge it, but it was. I think I liked it because it took me a good minute to get used to it. It was a thing that it took longer even than Birdman, quite a bit actually, for me to get on board. And then once I was on board, I was really on board. I like this one a lot. I don't mind saying this is my favorite this week. I was super impressed. I have other things to say, but I'm gonna give the floor up to Lance.
I don't want to say this is favorite. I'm not actually not entirely sure. It's definitely one of my favorites. I mean, just it blows my mind that he wrote this entire. Oh my gosh. Admittedly, I will say that the subject matter is near to my heart. I actually wrote one of my first high school term papers on this play.
Oh,
so.
cool.
I don't know. It's this is fantastic. The fact that he's able to not only write in verse well, but also get a full-fledged review in there is just so amazing. Now that we talked about some of the other videos, I actually did notice this time that just like with Squatch Gang, he's a little bit off center in his frame, but it's not a problem here because he is so animated. He does have the use of his entire body because he's not holding the case the entire time, and so he's very expressive, very very good in performance. The honestly, this review is just being one much. If he had memorized or he's reading this, from front of the camera, either way, it doesn't come across as though he's reading.
We know he memorized Birdman, so I suspect he did the same thing with this.
Yeah, but I really only have like one nitpicky thing, and for some reason I'm not really sure why. I just sort of felt like he had his head craned up and was sort of looking down the whole time, and it just seemed kind of distracting. I don't know if he was trying to figuratively look down his nose at us or something, but I really don't know what that was. It's just kind of weird. Like, why are you up here? Why are you looking at us like this? I don't know. It was odd. And since you did bring up Birdman, it does make me wonder if he's kind of kicking himself now for having done that in a prior challenge when it would have been perfect for this one as well.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, I don't know if he would agree with this, but I think that he's improved on it. I mean, like on that kind of a thing. Like I don't know that this would be as strong as it was if he hadn't tried Birdman. Like I don't know if he would have attempted something like this and known if he would be able to memorize it in time if he hadn't done Birdman. Having said that, this is probably somewhat easier to memorize, because I've had to memorize rhyming couplets before. I was in Tartuffe back in high school, and I had to memorize lines of dialogue that rhyme like this, and it was 1,000 times easier than memorizing regular dialogue. So I mean, like, because when I did that play, when I first looked at it, I was like, oh my god, I don't want to have to memorize, right? And then it was just so much easier to remember everything because you had these signposts just built into it. So anyway, Aaron Dicer.
First of all, I'm going to steal one of his lines for every Seth MacFarlane movie that I review from here on out, which is Art Joke, Mouth Joke, Vaginal Joke too. I just think it's a great way to sum that up. Boy, I was the one he was apologizing to at the end. I did not like this.
Really? Well, you're wrong.
Here's the thing. Brilliant concept in brilliant writing.
Yeah.
But I know that because I looked in the description and I read it. Just watching the video, it did not strike. I wasn't able to follow a lot of it. It was just, I don't feel like he had the couplets down in a way that communicated their meaning rather than just saying their words. And so for me, I really had to zoom in a way that was distracting to me to try to understand what he was talking about. And you said it took you about a minute to get into it. I had to watch it a second time to catch that stuff, and I wanted to watch it and catch what he was saying before I read it, because he references that he wrote it, because I wanted to take it as a video itself, not as a written piece. As a written piece, I think it's brilliant. I think it's amazing what he did. As a video, it just didn't work for me overall, which is unfortunate, again, because the content is great. The review part of it is really good, and the fact that he was able to do it is really good. I just think because of its structure, I think he handcuffed himself a little bit too much in the delivery aspect of it. And again, that may be just a personal thing. That may be just something that I wasn't able to tone into the right way. Having said that, it's certainly not awful. I'm not saying that, but I do disagree with it being one of the better ones this week because I just wasn't able to tune into it.
And part of the reason I say that is because he was able to make a thing that you wouldn't really want to edit, that is a lot more impressive if it's not caught up in any way, and if it's just him in front of a camera. And I mean, like, it's such a Aaron, earlier you complained that somebody wasn't nearly creative enough. I guess it was Squatch Gang, and this was one of the reasons I was so impressed with it was because he ran with the concept of, okay, I'm not going to be able to edit. What am I going to do to be interesting and entertaining and engaging?
The content is creative, but his visual space isn't creative. I mean, there's nothing going on.
I would have at least written something on that whiteboard or something. I mean, there's stuff he could have done.
Going on there.
Yeah, you're fair. That's totally fair.
I felt like, to me, it's like when you can hear an early musician who is just playing notes and not playing music. It felt like his delivery of the Shakespeare he wrote was just playing the notes. And because of that, the communication it didn't get through to me. I wasn't able to understand some of those breaks where they were in the couplets and those kind of things.
Aaron, that's a super fair point. Isn't it somewhat ironic that you say that? Because I didn't notice it. I guess I was just too taken in by what he was doing. And he is animated enough that I'm not looking at the background. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I can't help but think that it's a little bit ironic that in videos that he has been able to edit, he's put more care into what he's holding and what we're looking at, and stuff on screen. The things that like the last review when he's talking about different remakes and he's showing us examples on the screen. He didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So where was that kind of stuff here? It was because he had to focus so much on what he was saying. He couldn't do that kind of stuff.
And that's the other thing I want to say. I want to be careful that I give him the points he deserves for level of difficulty too. Sometimes
that's true. That's true.
You can take away from somebody who doesn't succeed at something very, very complicated and not remember that what they're doing is really, really difficult. And so I want to give him those points for level of difficulty.
The intermediate at best. Yeah, I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, he did one of the most difficult dives. He just, for me, splashed a little too much on entry. That kind of thing.
That's a great analogy. I got to ask you one question real quick. And sorry, Manos, we haven't gotten to you yet. I got to ask you one question, Aaron, and that is, do you think that it's simply too much material to deliver effectively in 4 minutes? Because it's pretty rushed.
I think it's not just too much, but again too complex. So there's too much and it's too intricate to really do justice to, I think, in the 4 minutes that he had. I think that's fair.
Also, is it for any? Because I said you didn't have to read the play to be able to follow it, but I'll admit you need to have read some Shakespeare. I mean, like, is this really for people that aren't familiar with the Bard? I wrote in my notes it might be a little cerebral for some people. And I'm not saying it's too cerebral for you, Aaron. I'm just saying that in people that aren't familiar with Shakespeare, like, it might be a thing that it's just, this feels like a thing you'd make for college. It's the thing I'm worried about. That was fine for me. I'm his target audience, but I don't know that everybody is. That's all I'm saying.
If Kenneth Branagh is delivering this writ thing he wrote, it's a totally different experience. If somebody who gets how to use that to communicate is putting the voice behind that and the inflection behind that, I think it's a totally different experience for me. I just think it comes down to that's really hard to do.
So basically, you're just complaining that he didn't call up Anthony Hopkins. That's what you're saying.
That's it.
Okay.
Just needed to call up.
Yeah, he did not call up the right. Okay, I'm sorry, Manos. We've not let you speak yet. Go ahead.
That's okay. I would agree with actually the points that all of you made combined. First off, I will agree. The fact that he chose this subject matter to review any Shakespeare play, because a lot of people would usually kind of just casually consider it like, review proof. Like, oh, it's a classic, it's great.
Hallowed ground. Yeah.
Of course. And I like the fact that he kind of dove into it and really discussed, the negatives and positives of this particular work. And I think he does it very well. And I always like people who go into the vulgarity of Shakespeare and, just brush it off. Like, a lot of people don't even think about that, because Shakespeare has this image of being stuff you taught in schools, and it's boring and it's classy. And I enjoy the fact that he approached it on that. I also enjoy the fact that he went all the way, he went all in as far as taking the theme of what he's reviewing and turn it into the review and craft a review in that way. And I think he's done that, of course, with Birdman. He did that brilliantly. He did that brilliantly with what he's written here. And I'm very impressed with that. I've never written anything in this kind of style, and I'd be, frankly, a little intimidated to give it a shot. So I'm very impressed with how he's able to review something and still make it sound really, beautiful. And I guess my issues are, I don't know, I'd have to chalk this up to nitpick, is his blank background. There's just kind of, I did find myself staring at the void that's behind him a couple of times during the video. He's able to bring it back because what he's saying is interesting, and he's kind of talks with his hands like I do. So that's important. That's kinship I have.
Yeah, you guys that do that are weird. I don't even understand that.
You just do. It's just a thing. I
don't know why people talk with it. I don't even get it.
But I will agree with Aaron's assessment on playing the notes. I've acted myself. I've done Shakespeare. I've done Chaucer in
I
school.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and there is a difference between reading something even beautifully written and acting it. And I think maybe he makes a tiny mistake. I wouldn't even call it a full, huge blunder, but there is a slight issue with the fact that he kind of just reads it rather than kind of acting it out. And what I forgot which one of you said about Kenneth Branagh. Yeah, Kenneth Branagh would have let the language kind of flow and kind of really enjoy the words that are coming out and really kind of digging into it. And he doesn't do that. He kind of does it in his standard delivery, which I can't really totally expect that of him. He's probably I don't think he's an actor or anything like that. So I'm willing to forgive that. That's
also short notice, and he just wrote it, right? I mean, he doesn't have a lot of time to work on the
and he's probably doing stuff like having a life.
Yeah, he's probably writing a paper about this play, is what I figure. That's probably what he's working on right now.
So I won't really, hold that against him, too much. But it is something I was thinking about. But otherwise, it's a damn impressive piece.
You guys really got me thinking. Why would you shoot a video like that in a classroom if not to write everything on a whiteboard or have it otherwise projected somewhere. I wonder if that room didn't have a whiteboard on the other side and he wasn't actually looking at some notes. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's and if not, I don't know why he didn't shoot it the other direction unless there's nothing on that wall or he'd be backlit because there's windows, and actually write some of the dialogue on that whiteboard. It was a really big whiteboard. I bet it's all up there. And sorry, that thing I just now thought of. Anyway, anything else we should say about this? Okay, moving right along then to Kai's review of Rear Window.
That's my dance floor.
All these spoiler warnings. I'm starting all this at the end of the review. Oh, he's still sitting there. Spoiler alert. He's still sitting there. And we begin.
Good evening. Let's talk about a little movie called Rear Window, the original 1954 film directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
What is that a metaphor for, I wonder?
It stars Jimmy Stewart as a photojournalist named Jeffrey. He has a broken leg and he passes time during the hospital.
Sorry guys, that is the best I can do.
Okay.
He begins to suspect that one of them named Thorwald
You'll just have to remember everything.
The rest of the movie is him and his friends solving the case. Now, contrary to many cinematic techniques, the camera actually never leaves the room. There's not much editing either. Everything is tightly rehearsed as if it's a play. I can't put my finger on it. There's something really creepy about the whole thing too, like how murder could be going on right next to home, because you never gonna know what's going on behind closed doors. It's not a horror film, it's a mystery thriller, but it has its fair share of slow and ominous and delightfully suspenseful little moments, like Jeffrey will look around the neighborhood very slowly, very quiet, and you get the two have very different lifestyles, are having problems getting along because of this or that. Those it take to bind them back together even tighter than they were before, solving a murder case. It's a great example of Mr. Hitchcock's dark sense of humor. But despite centering around something as unnerving as a secret murder, Rear Window really does have its nice moments. It has a very warm tone that can make you happy. It has this in common with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. There's always soothing music coming from one of the other apartments belonging to a songwriter. Franz Waxman's fast jazz score is really upbeat. And the characters in the midst of all this lighten the mood and share a laugh. There are a lot of, the movie has a lot of human parts. The ones buried in the garden. All the other neighbors in the distance are shown to have some kind of problem, and throughout the movie, when we're not focused on Thorwald, we see them overcome it. Like, there's a lonely middle-aged woman who contemplates suicide from time to time. There's a young ballerina that's having social issues. There's, the songwriter's having trouble getting his life together, but by the end of the movie, all the characters have overcome their problems, all loose ends are tied, and you walk away feeling a little better about life. Rear Window is a true masterpiece, and is one of my favorite movies of all time. It comes close to being #1. If you're passionate about filmmaking or movies in general, I highly recommend it. I'm giving Rear Window full marks, 4 out of 4. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is Kai, and as always, I'll see you all next time.
Okay, let's begin with Lance.
Okay, by the way, I don't think you enabled your screen share with us for that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. That would explain why Manos had his eyes closed.
Yeah, I was just listening.
Wondered about that. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I forgot that it wouldn't come back as soon as obviously.
That's okay. I remember the video.
Oh no, yeah, it's totally cool. Can you guys see it now? Good. Okay, that line is back. It's not a big deal, but it's oh, and there goes Lance. And Lance was gonna start. Great. He's just gone. And then Lance was gone. And then there was no Lance. Okay, well, I want to move along, so let's start with Manos. Yes.
Jeff, me to try to put some headphones on, see if maybe it's coming from.
That would be helpful. Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can find some real quick.
I can be relatively sure it's not coming from me, and I can't put headphones on because of the way I'm micing this. Manos, do you hear that?
Yeah, hold on. I'm next to my air condition, which is a piece of crap, and I wonder if it's mine.
Okay, well, my question, Manos, is are you hearing it when you put your headphones on like it's coming from somebody else?
Oh, no, I hear it from the headphones.
Yeah, then it's not coming from you.
Okay.
Almost certainly, unless you're hearing it from inside and outside your headphones.
That would be, yeah. No, I don't hear it outside.
Not That's not
Right, it's
likely to be the deal, but I mean, I don't know. Anything's possible. Yeah, I still hear it.
Okay, because I've got headphones on now.
Jeez. Okay. Well, I'm about 89% sure it's not coming from me, but
It's not that bad.
no, it's okay. We can live with it. I hate for viewers at home to have to endure that if it's, I've got a really good shotgun mic.
I don't even hear what you're talking about, so it's weird.
That's weird that you're not hearing it. Okay, all right. Well, anyway, I'm gonna try to get Lance back, and in the meantime, give me a second. Let me get calling him again, and then I'll start with Manos. 1 second here. Calm down, Tarzan. It's gonna be okay.
Lance is busy.
Jeez, what is he doing? He's got more important things to do. He's got better things to do. Manos, why don't you go ahead and get started? We'll try to get Lance back in here. What did you think of this?
I like the video a lot. I like that he chose a simple method of sort of mimicking being kind of stuck in a spot, which is a pretty appropriate thing to review when you're reviewing Rear Window.
Yeah.
I like the fact that let's see, he discusses the various subplots within the story, which are actually pretty subtle. I mean, sometimes people really don't talk about the various minor storylines of the neighbors in that film. Everybody, tends to focus on the big murder plot of the story. But one of the things that's so great about the film is, Hitchcock does kind of take you, in that room. And you know what? It's something I keep forgetting about that he mentions in this video is that the film really never leaves this room. It stays claustrophobic like that. And you kind of forget because, the camera reaches out to the rest of the apartment complex, and we tend to forget because we get absorbed into these worlds, into the mystery. I like how he went into the individual stories and kind of tying it into the narrative of the film. And he makes a couple of comparisons to Sam Raimi's work, which I appreciated because I'm a fan of Sam Raimi, and I know that Sam Raimi's a big fan of Hitchcock, and Hitchcock is a big influence on him, which is hilarious. If you watch his films, you wouldn't ordinarily think that just at the get-go, at least superficially, but there is quite a bit of an influence on his work. Even actually, Sam Raimi comes to work and directs every day in a suit because Hitchcock worked in a suit. So he actually does that.
Does he smoke cigars, too?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
This is 2015.
Some people smoke cigars. I don't know. I'm just curious. Tim Lyon smokes cigars. Dan Torrey used to smoke cigars. I have to mention that every chance I get. And we learned that in this contest. Yeah, when Dan was reviewing on the contest, we learned that because the guy that was reviewing cigars.
Huh.
You remember him? Apparently not.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. I bring that up every chance I get.
I totally forgot
Maxwell.
Maxwell.
Reviews.
Yeah. I love Maxwell's magic reviews.
But anyway,
guy.
I guess I can't really think too much really to criticize about this video. Maybe some of you could find something that maybe was kind of jumping out at you, but I didn't have anything really huge to complain about. I thought it was a pretty solid review.
Okay, let's see what Lance disliked.
Da-da-ba-dum-bum-bum.
Well, I agree with everything the rest of you guys said.
Manos is the only one that's spoken, and I think he probably got to say everything he meant to. Go ahead, Lance.
I thought I was gone longer than I was, I guess. Oh, God, my deception has been uncruel. So, anyway, actually, I really didn't have that much to say about this one because I do agree with Justin that it was solid. It was solid. Not really anything to complain about for me in this case. It wasn't, it wasn't as far out there with the challenge as a few of the other ones. It didn't strike me as quite as much as iambic pentameter or walking down the street. But in terms of its content, it was just it was solid. I mean, it was nice that he was in the windowsill. I liked just the blackness behind him.
I liked that it was behind him.
Yeah, I liked it was behind him, and not in front of him. That would have been awkward. But
sorry.
I don't know. It was clever. How he was insistent on using his theme music to the point without editing.
Yeah.
He brought in his phone. He's like, I'm going to put this in here anyway. And, it's amazing we have technology that allows us to do things like this nowadays. So, although I can't, I have a flip phone, so I couldn't have done that. But
I do not have any. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a solid review. And able to just zero in on really specific things, just like even things like ambient noise, but still had a very broad, so it didn't feel like he was only focusing on nitpicky details. He managed to get the whole scope and breadth of the film too. So it was solid. There's not much for me to really get angry about.
Okay, I'll go real quick. I am surprised that no one has brought up yet that he was a full minute 15 under the allotted time. And,
thank you.
Yeah, and I just feel like you could have done more with that space. And sometimes we've had people that are. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. Would you like to go? Would you like to? Would you like a turn?
That was.
You want a turn?
The key thing for me. Go ahead. You bring it up. You say it, and I'll back it up.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Well, sometimes it just doesn't take the full time to say what you have to say, and I can appreciate and understand that. The problem with this that made it a bit of an issue for me is that it's kind of, I don't want to use the word gushy. That's not the right way to go about it. It's not that it's not a critical review, but it's a review of a thing that he thinks is pretty flawless. And when you do a review like that, and you don't even acknowledge the fact that you can't think of really anything, you don't want to fish for negatives and critiques when you can't really think of anything and to say, and you don't mention, look, it's just that good. And then there's a full minute and 15 where you could have talked about stuff. It feels like more of a recommendation, than a review, even though you're discussing specifics. There is a little bit of, I don't know if I want to call it analysis, but he picks up on a lot of really specific things that are the things that make the movie effective. I thought it was a really articulate review. I thought that it was incredibly well rehearsed, and I know a little bit of background about this review because Kai had been sending me. By the way, I don't watch, even if we have them already, I don't watch anybody's interviews before we do this. I've been getting that question a lot lately. Do we watch those ahead of time? I don't, but he had been sending me messages because he was a little bit frustrated. He told me he shot this some 70, 80 times. He just couldn't get it right, and it shows that he put that much work into it. And so like I'm not knocking the amount of work and like how dedicated he was to getting it right. I love the way it's framed. It looks really cool. He's got to work on his sound. It's one of those things where it's a mechanical hang up, and I don't want to dog people too hard for that, but we don't need our contestants to have the best technology. I always go back to this, but we had a guy in season 2 who won with a phone. It's okay, but I've got to at least be able to hear you. I've got to at least be able to see you. Go ahead, Aaron. Those are my main criticisms, and then all the things I liked about have been discussed already. Go ahead, Aaron.
Those were the two I wanted to bring up that I couldn't believe nobody had mentioned. One was the sound. There comes a point where if I've got it turned all the way up on YouTube and on my computer and I still can't really hear you, that's on your end. That's not, an audience issue. That's something you've got to figure out and get the volume up. So I do think that is an issue at that point. In what you're talking, when you call a movie a masterpiece and then you leave a full minute and some on the table to talk about it, that to me says that there's something off, that there's more to talk about. Now, part of this also could be I am a Hitchcock freak. Like, I've watched every single one of his movies. I've studied, his books and filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like there was a lot about Rear Window that he didn't touch on. I felt like he didn't spend near enough time on Jimmy Stewart, whose performance in that movie is legendary. Like, it's incredible what he does in that small space. I feel like he didn't spend enough time about how the whole movie is a metaphor for cinema, how we spend time in a dark room looking at these windows and we get transported into these worlds, and how Hitchcock saw the movie as kind of a dissertation on how cinema tells stories.
Yeah.
You know, these are things about the movie that I think I wouldn't have a problem with that if he had filled the 4 minutes, you know, with, you know, stuff that he had picked out, but to leave stuff on the table, again, that may, just because I know it doesn't mean everybody needs to know it, but at the same time, if you're going to say something's a masterpiece, you know, I think there is some more depth to go in on it. So other than that, you said all the positives, so I don't necessarily need to repeat them, which is the content he did bring up was nuanced and good. But again, I think he left a lot on the table, and that did bother me a little bit.
Yeah, and Aaron, I think one of the problems too, and I might not have thought this had he spent more time with the thing that he had, but it was hard not to think of it. And I hate to say this after I know how much work he put into it, that it felt like kind of a safe choice, just because it was so much shorter. You know, it's like I know, I'm sure he didn't do this on purpose, but it kind of comes off like I picked a thing that I wouldn't have to criticize so that I could, you know, memorize it faster. I don't think he did that. I'm just saying that outsider looking in, it'd be really easy to think that. And it's okay, like it's okay to pick something that is universally acclaimed, which Rear Window absolutely
pretty much is.
Sure.
It's okay to do that, but then you really have to tell us why. Like, you really have to say, you really have to give us the education we need to know, why is this movie on so many people's top 10 lists of all time? You know, what is it about Hitchcock that he did here that makes it so great? So if you can review it in that way, it becomes more of a review and less of a recommendation, because you're going into depth. So there's some education to it. I'm thinking so much right now, Aaron, about your personal style. And the way you review new movies every week, and of course this is a different kind of thing because there's a little bit more analysis here than what you do with those. Right.
But my question to you would be, because you make sure that you have sectioned out, here's my big positive, here's my big negative, and that's just your structure. Not everybody has to do it that way. But clearly, I think you would agree with me if I were to say that critiques generally, by and large, obviously, the big important things we need to know are the big two. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Doesn't he at least need to use some of that space to acknowledge why he's not saying anything negative about the piece, regardless of saying it's a masterpiece?
Yes, if you're not going to...
Because I've called things masterpieces and still had negatives.
Right. If you're not going to find something to say that is critical, I think you do, in some ways, owe your audience an explanation of, so you're really saying this movie is perfect. And if you are, that's fine, but, you know, that's a big statement. You know? So.
Okay, anything else about this one? Okay, we're going to move right along then. We've got 2 more left, and what, 2 more? 1 more. 2 more.
2.
We move on. We'll do this as quickly. And, you know, you'd think with 4, we'd go a little bit quicker than we have, but I haven't been timing these because the timer has been pointless so far this year. And anyway, I'm sorry this is taking so long, but I'm very much enjoying the conversation, and I hope you guys are too. Let's move on now to Ben's review of Teenage Paparazzo, and let's walk with him, shall we? Here we go.
Let's see, Mr. Cool. Mr. Cool. Mr. Cool.
God, why did everyone this week do that?
Hey, I heard allegations that you know, you've been doing some other work on the side with YouTube Poops there. How true is that? I mean, you got some reviews. I mean, come on,
leave me alone.
I heard. I mean, you can do some great reviews, man. Could you do a review for us today? Come on.
If I do one, will you leave me alone?
Yeah, sure.
All right then, good. Hello there, everybody. It's Mr. Cool 210 here with another review for you. And to celebrate the release of Entourage the movie, I'm going to do a quick review of Teenage Paparazzo, another movie starring Adrian Grenier. Quick, what the heck is that?
Hey, get back here! Hey, come on! Oh, come on, we had a deal, man. Just one short review, that's all.
Fine.
All right, come on.
The film stars Austin Vishtik and Adrian Grenier, and it explores their relationship as celebrity paparazzo. And it also just goes into the general ideas of what it's like to be a paparazzi and what it's like to be a celebrity hunted by the paparazzi. First, as always, let's move on to some positives. The film is very thorough with everything that it does. It gives you all the facts, and I love it for that. I love that it's really good at telling you, hey, this is what it's like being a paparazzi, this is like what it's like being a celebrity, and it lets you decide whose side you want to be on for this.
Also, it's really great that it also has these small little touches. For example, Adrian Grenier is a celebrity, so there's points in time where he'll be walking around and they'll see people that are shooting him with cameras, which I love that touch. It really shows that they did take good care and weren't like, hey, get off the set. Not a movie for you. And then finally, the one thing I really do love in this film is that Austin, the kid who is a teenage paparazzo, goes through a character arc. There's a status quo in the beginning of the movie. There's a change that he can go through. He decides to take it, and he's a different person by the end of the film. A documentary that can do that is really good in my book. I've never seen that in a documentary before, and I wish I saw that in more. The only real negatives I could see are that, A, there are times where the sound is a bit more... Well, thanks. There are times when the sound is very hard to hear. I don't know if it was the microphone or they just couldn't take a second take, but that should have been fixed in post, or just refilm it and ask the same sort of question. And when it comes to the camera, sometimes they have this weird aspect ratio change where it's just like, hey, it's over here on the top right, we're going to have this whole section of the screen be black. Why they do that, I have no idea. If those things would have been fixed, I would have given it a higher score. But as it is, I gotta give it an 8 out of 10. If you can't see it, I definitely would recommend checking it out.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Coleman. Do you think you might be able to do one more? No. I mean, honestly, come on. Just one more. It's only a short little one. Come on. No. Oh, really? What do you like? You like it?
All right, we begin with Aaron Dyson.
I loved this. I loved the concept. I loved that he mirrored the movie itself, mirrored both the way he shot it as well as kind of, the challenge this week, which was, kind of a paparazzo style. I love that he found something
great choice.
Like that. Yeah, great choice. And also there's a level of difficulty here, right? Being outside, the noises of the outside, also walking while you're doing the review. That's a difficult thing, and I do think at some points it hurts him. Yeah, it affects his ability to stay focused and to kind of know where he's going next. Having said that, I still think he gets to the places he wants to go, and though it's a little bit shallower than a lot of the reviews this week, there's not quite as much there. I think I still understand this movie and kind of what it's about and how he feels about it. I also wonder, we mentioned this early on, he's done in every single challenge, I think. He always says, if it had changed these things, I would have given it a higher review. Is that like his shtick, do we think? Like, is that like his, the way he gets into his score?
Yeah, definitely it is. Yeah. And the problem is, he's always gonna, that's always gonna be true, right? Like, unless it's a perfect score, that's always gonna, I mean, like, okay, what he's been doing, sorry, forgive me, can I interject? What he gets away with it more when he's edited because he uses it as a summary. He says, so to remind you what we've been discussing, this was bad, this was bad, this was bad, and so that's why it gets this score, and he frames that in, I would have given it a lower score. That doesn't work here.
Right. Yeah.
That's part of it. That's part of it. But yeah, I always feel kind of weird about his saying that, because it's like, and maybe we could have, if we all agree with that. I don't know if we all do. Maybe we could have made that clearer before round 4, but because he's still doing it. But yeah, it is a weird thing to say, because if you like of course you would give it a higher score. That's the whole point of negatives of criticism.
But if it's a shtick, if it's just something that's his, then I'm a little more forgiving on it. I give a little more grace for that. If that's just the the thing he says to get into it, well, it doesn't have to make complete sense necessarily. It just kind of is what it is. But overall, I liked this, and I thought the acting was better than I had expected it to be. I thought he did a good job picking the person who's behind the camera. They did a great job. I thought they were really good. I love that he added a little personality to it with, hey, look over there, and running away. We're pretty sure that was a legitimate nerd call out, right? Like, that wasn't somebody he set up. Or
I wrote in my notes.
That was somebody who
I wrote in my notes that if that was staged, that was impressive. I kind of think that actually happened and he took it in stride. That's what I think.
I think so too, and I
do not think he set that up. If he did, you know what? I'm impressed either way. I'm impressed with the way he handled it. If it was real, it felt real. So even if it was staged, I'm impressed with the stage. Either way, I liked it, and like I hate it for him if it really happened because that's I guess that sort of sucks. But then it made the whole thing feel more real. So I'm glad it happened ultimately for the piece.
And it's perfect for this challenge, right?
Oh, like yeah.
It's the exact kind of thing that a lot of people would edit out of a video. And for this challenge, because it's unedited, you leave it in, and I think it makes it stronger in a way. Like it's Well, it makes you wonder how many takes he had, because boy, if it was planted, that girl had to keep going back and forth. So I mean, I really kind of doubt that it was, but yeah. So anyway, overall, I had a really good time with this. I really respected the concept and the execution, even if there were, it wasn't perfect. There were, a lot of flaws, and the content could have used a little beefing up, but I had a good time with this one.
May we hear from the real Manos?
I also agree with Aaron, almost pretty much uniformly. He had a wonderful take on the concept. I also enjoyed the opening and the closing of this. I thought he handled the jerk in the middle of the video pretty well. He didn't let it phase him too much, frankly. I like the interplay between him and the camera person playing the paparazzo. I occasionally watched TMZ for like a couple of minutes last year, and I kind of hate those people.
Yeah.
I thought he got that feel really authentically. I would agree also that if there's any weak points in the video, it does feel like the content of the review gets kind of lost and weak, kind of in the middle of it, and almost to the point where it almost felt like the beginning and endings were prepared, and the base of it, the middle of it wasn't so much. Maybe it was a little more off the cuff. And if you do like review like this, off the cuff, that's going to be kind of difficult. You can get lost pretty much in it. It felt that way. It felt like he did kind of lose it a little bit on what he was focused on. But that's my only real complaint about it. I thought it was a really strong entry.
Yeah, and I don't want to I wouldn't want to give him too much leeway on this, but you could if that's the case, Manos, you could almost get away with it to a degree with the conceit, because he's being in the conceit of the review, he would not be prepared. Because the guy just runs up to him.
The thing is, this is a review.
Yeah.
I think you probably should lose that somewhere in the middle and feel a little bit more focused, and then get back into that kind of off-the-cuff feeling.
Well, and you could say that anybody who is famous enough that he would be like tracked down like that by a paparazzo, then you might say, well, that guy's probably good enough to go to be so off the cuff, or to be prepared, look that prepared,
Yeah.
So
I don't know, just out of pacing, that kind of feeling, that kind of like delivery, does kind of wear after a minute. So maybe a little bit more focused as he was going about, and then kind of go back into this like, hey, I gotta, get going here, that kind of stuff. That probably would have been a little bit better, but I enjoyed the video a lot.
Lance Fusion. Lance?
Wake up!
Oh, he just disappeared!
Oh, I'm sorry.
As soon as Why are you always running Lance off, Manos?
I don't know.
What is that about, man?
Because I'm filled with hate. I think that's why.
Aaron, there's a part of me that hates to encourage you too much, but that never gets old. Here, Lance is back. There he is. He's orange, but he's back. Okay, orange is the new back. Whoa! He's
an alien.
Holy crap! You are talking in the future. Whoa, what is going on? You sound like a tape recorder on fast forward.
Sounds like the squirrels in Emperor's New Groove.
You sound like an alien recording from a 70s sci-fi
I did not know this was possible, but I feel like we're talking to Lance about 10 minutes in the future right now. This is amazing. Okay, Lance, I'm sorry. I'm gonna hang up on you and call you back because I don't know what the. Actually, I can sort of understand him now. Wait, no, I can't even handle that. No, it's alright.
He's a dolphin.
Oh my god. Fish don't put
Captain Kirk in fast motion.
Yeah. Money doesn't put fish on the table. Fish puts fish on the table. Okay. Well, I'm calling him back.
He was orange. We didn't really focus on that.
Yeah. Frankly, I lost. Wait, Lance, are you back?
Am I back?
Yeah, and you sound like Lance now, not like you're in fast motion.
Man, I can't wait to hear this.
You were out of phase.
Very ambitious choice, very appropriate choice. Paparazzi style, paparazzi review.
Yeah.
If the heckler was real, not only was he great to not be affected by it, but it actually perfectly ties in with the subject matter as well. So honestly, I don't blame him for keeping it in. I don't see anybody anymore.
Yeah, I lost video.
Yeah, I lost too.
But obviously there were a few hiccups because of the fact that it was outside. I did feel like he was getting a bit winded towards the end and maybe losing a bit of his train of thought. Really, I only have one kind of nitpicky sort of performance thing to say, which is I kind of wish he kept running a little bit more, because by the time the camera swings around, he's already sort of given up. Like, okay, I'll do the review. Minor thing. There were a few parts. I don't know if anybody can help me with this one. There were a few parts where I just had a hard time understanding what the joke was or what he was saying. Particularly that point where he looks back and he talks about the stairs. I watched that a couple of times and I still couldn't quite figure out if I was missing something. I didn't quite get that.
I heard it this time. And now I'm trying to remember. Didn't he say something about like quiet on the set or something? I forget.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was telling them to be quiet. It was quiet on the set or whatever.
It made sense this time in a way it didn't the first time I saw it.
Okay. Yeah, but it did take some, a couple times to get that. But overall, I think this is definitely one of his better efforts. I've never really been bothered by his, if this was different, I would give it a higher score thing. And it's certainly, not quite as orthodox as, as a, something, an alternative. But, it never really has grated on me in any way. It's like, okay, he does that, and I can, it's nice to have his ideas on what he would do to fix things, but I'm kind of ambivalent towards it in general. I don't mind it. I'm not over the moon for it, but it doesn't bother me. I think it's okay.
Okay, I've interjected a lot this time, so I'll just say a couple more things. I honestly thought Manos that I'll disagree with Manos. I'm going to disagree with Manos slightly. I actually thought that the content was a little bit better than Manos did. I think that the pacing affects it hard. So if you'd read this on paper, I think that there's more here than you're either letting on or that you're noticing because it's easy to kind of tune out a little bit. The biggest difficulty for me is just how winded he is. And Lance, you said toward the end, I feel like from the very beginning. When he runs away and comes back, he's just grasping for breath through the whole thing, and that's making it. I found the entire experience exhausting. I thought it was a really cool idea, and I liked the way a lot of it is played. I just found it difficult to follow him sometimes because of shortness of breath. That was kind of it. Also, the mic setup was problematic. And I'm surprised, Lance, that you didn't say anything about that. I kind of figured that we would have similar notes there. There are places where because there's so much like wind and background noise and stuff, it's distracting. It doesn't make it difficult to hear what he's saying, except for when he turns his head. But it's just distracting. So and again, there's a little bit of a meta thing there where I get that there are kind of some thematic reasons to sort of have that, but like when it gets in the way of following the content and staying with them, that becomes kind of a problem. I would have mic'd this differently if you had the equipment. If you had a boom mic, you could still play it and pretend like he's got a regular mic, or even this guy could just have better equipment than he has. There's no reason that the paparazzi guy wouldn't necessarily have better equipment than this. So he could get away with that. He could even get away with a lav mic if he had one, but I can't expect him to have that kind of equipment. I just think that the conceit he's going with, he's not really technically prepared to do set up for it, and that made it a little bit problematic, I think, for me to follow it.
Well, if
first
it
time
makes you
around.
feel any better, I actually do have that in my notes. I just didn't say it out loud for some reason.
Oh, okay.
So we are in agreement on that. Although
I was just curious.
I do think if he used the lav, and unless he was able to hide it really well, I think that might have sort of broken the reality of the setting. Because why would he be mic'd? But
well, that's a good point, but what I would do with it is I would have him mic that way, and then I would maybe add artificial sound behind it so that it felt real and sort of manufacture that, so that you at least can hear him more clearly. But that might not come out well. Who knows? I mean, you have to try it.
You could also have the second person force it on him. You know, be like, hey, I need you to wear this for the audio.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. You said you do it, so wear this. And then when he takes off, it's like that lav mic was $100. That's all I wanted to mention, though. I thought review-wise it was really solid. And again, a really fun way to handle it. It's one of those reviews where it's in my top 2 or 3 of reviews that I wasn't thinking about the editing thing, and that you could totally see him doing this without being assigned. He gets huge props for me for that. Last one is that Matt kid who reviewed the Jedi Path. And here goes.
We don't have screen share, I don't think.
What? Again?
Yeah.
Or your video, for that matter.
Yeah, you don't need me. It's cool.
Can you do a Brack impersonation? Because
sure,
that would make it better.
Sure, Brack makes everything better. He did. That was horrid.
Yeah, it was.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Oh man!
So it was my first try. I'm trying to get into it.
I haven't heard Brack for so long. I'm not sure if I could impersonate him anymore.
Somebody left the cake out in the rain. Oh no! I was gonna eat that cake, but now it's all wet, and I don't think I want any.
That's
stupid.
You're stupid.
You sound more black than Brack.
I'm sure many black people would disagree.
Trying too hard to sound black. That is.
Brack is. I would agree with that. Yeah, Brack is the new pink. I don't know.
Once you go Brack, you never go back. But
that might
be the first time anybody. That might be the first time anybody's ever accused Logan of being too black. Whoa, Logan, you're a little too black here.
I disagree. Let's watch Matt now. I wish I wasn't on screen for you guys at all right now, because now I'm starting to sweat. Okay, let's listen to that Matt kid. Here we go.
Hello, friends. Have you ever wanted to be a Jedi Knight and travel the galaxy? Well, now you can, with the help of the Jedi Path. The Jedi Path is actually a really cool book written by Daniel Wallace. Now, it's not a narrative exactly, it's a handbook on how to be a Jedi. And what I really like about this book is the way that it treats itself as a work of fiction. You know, this isn't just some book saying, like, yeah, in the Star Wars universe, Jedi do this, this, this. No, this is an actual, like, fictional work in the Star Wars universe. The book opens up with a briefing by Luke Skywalker, and on the right here you can see all the different people who have owned the book and have then made annotations in the book talking about their experiences as a Jedi, or Sith in some cases, and how they feel both looking back on the book in the case of Luke Skywalker, and how they feel while they're currently in the Jedi Order. So right off the bat, the presentation is phenomenal. This book feels really good in your hands. It's got a nice hardback cover, and I like that all the pages are frayed. It gives it this sort of artifact feel. It's very cool. And also, all the illustrations are phenomenal. Most of the illustrations are new to this book. They haven't been in any of the comics or anything, as far as I'm aware. We have a lot of great illustrations showing different parts of the mythos, different parts of the way the Jedi Order operates, and things like that. And really, the presentation all around is just phenomenal. The book's divided into sections. Starts out with kind of a basic overview of the Jedi Order, talks about the Jedi Code, and then it talks about, when you become an initiate and what involves you know, your introductory years in the order, and then what happens as you become an apprentice, and Padawan, taking the trials. So it's all really, really cool. Obviously, one of the key things about this book is the different people who have owned it. So it's been owned by Yoda, Thame Cerulean, Count Dooku, Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin, Ahsoka, Sidious, Skywalker, Luke Skywalker. So that's really cool. It's really neat to, you know, even though there's not a narrative, it's cool to flesh out these characters by looking at their comments in the books. Qui-Gon, for example, Qui-Gon Jinn's comments and Darth Sidious's comments are probably my favorite in the book. Qui-Gon's because in episode 1, you know, he was this character that we didn't really get to know a lot. You know, we knew he kind of had his disagreements with the Jedi, but we didn't delve into that a ton. Well, in this book, it delves into it a lot. He talks about his sort of confusion on different parts of the Jedi tenets that kind of contradict themselves. And Darth Sidious is one of my favorite commenters in this book, because every comment he makes is just him going, the Jedi is stupid. And I just like to imagine him sitting in his, you know, evil office somewhere going, another Jedi weakness. The Sith are way better, you know. That's hilarious to me, and it reaches its peak hilarity when Darth Sidious has gone through and blocked out the prophecy, which is just incredible. 2 whole pages of blocked out prophecy. Unbelievable. Some negatives, though. You know, if you don't know who people like Thame Cerulean are, their comments aren't going to mean much. And in fact, some of the comments in this book are contradicted by the Disney buyout. Luke Skywalker talks a lot about Mara Jade, a character I love, a character that a lot of people who love the expanded universe love. Well, now those comments, you know, are not canon, so it's a little bit hard to take those as, you know, a really cool resource. So, while it definitely has some pros and cons, it isn't canon anymore. If you're a fan of Star Wars, pick it up. It's really great. I'm that Matt Kid. I'll see you around.
I don't know what that is, but I'm giving someone free advertising right now. My favorite moment in this review, and I mean this with all you know funness intended, is when in the Darth Sidious voice he says, you know, that's really funny to me. Like he said you know a few times. He's still in the Darth Sidious voice, and he actually goes, you know, and I love that. I'm like, I don't think he did that on purpose, and it's my favorite thing. I really enjoyed that. Let's start with Manos.
All right, this is a pretty decent video where he I think he, you know, just does it like he tells it like it is, and he brings out the book. I think he explains the book very well, and you know what amuses him, what doesn't amuse him pretty thoroughly. I like the fact that, you know, he does the Darth Sidious voice. He really goes into, you know, the characters and talks about, you know, how the Star Wars mythos has changed over time with, you know, the expanded universe being changed. I was just thinking while he was talking about this and talking about all the Qui-Gon Jinn stuff, it's like, you know, we don't focus on Jar Jar Binks, but I don't know, maybe the second worst character in that movie is Qui-Gon, because he's kind of an idiot. Some of the best stuff I've heard people talk about Qui-Gon is like from the expanded universe and, you know, the comics and the video games. Like, yeah, in the movies he's kind of a schmuck, but in this book he's pretty thoughtful. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have anything really negative to say about the video. Much like the Rear Window review, you know, it's, you know, pretty solid piece.
Let's hear from Lance, if he's with us. Lance?
Yep, I'm here.
Yay!
Oh, good.
Yay! You don't sound like a chipmunk either. You don't sound like a futuristic chipmunk. Go ahead.
I think, I don't know if this speaks more to the level of competition in this particular round. I don't know. It was solid and it was enjoyable. It didn't leave that much of an impression on me, honestly. I don't know, and that might just be me comparing it to the rest of his level of work in general. It was good. I don't know. Just like with Connor Nielsen, it kind of made me wonder if he's, you know, if at least part of his, you know, Spy Hunter review might not have worked better for this format, just you know, sort of give it that visual flair that, you know, some of the others have had for this round. I also trying to think where I want to go with this, because I agree that it's a solid review. It just I don't know, it almost seemed more seemed more recommendy to me than review. It's sort of like, oh, look at all the fun stuff that these characters, you know, put in here, kind of thing. I don't know, I just, something about it felt off to me. I'm not entirely sure if I can articulate it very well right now. It was good, but it just wasn't to quite the level I expected of him.
I'll go ahead and go. I'm sort of two minds about it, because I agree with a lot of what you just said, Lance, and yet what I felt like I was watching here was a different approach that Matt should consider refining and using in the future. And I don't know if that's great for this particular challenge, just as far as competing with everybody else in it, but what I saw here was sort of another side to him, something that was kind of somewhere in the middle of his earlier couple reviews that were the same format, and felt a little bit stolid to me, and a little nervous, and then his much more polished last review with the kind of humor I want to see from him more often. I think that what he should do with this, you know, refine it, get a little bit more comfortable on camera. I felt like he was a little short of breath in places, and that made me think that maybe he had butterflies. What I think he ought to do with this style, and I don't know that this is really going to help him that much in this particular challenge, because I'm with, I think it was Lance who said that this didn't really stick with him that hard, but this was so like laid back, chill, like reading Rainbow. I'm like a book club kind of thing. Like I'm just kind of telling you about this book, and you might like it, you might not. Yeah, a little bit lax in the criticism department. There was a little bit, but it felt a little bit obligatory. But I think that this particular style he ought to use to fill in when he's working on big projects. I think this could really work for him, to talk about things that he might not want to do a full giant production on, and get a little bit more content on his channel if he wants to be a once a week or once every couple weeks or a couple times a week kind of channel. I think it actually might work really great for him. You might have stumbled upon something. But yeah, middle of the road for this particular challenge in the set we have, in my personal humble opinion. Have we heard yet from Aaron Dicer?
I think this video shows that Matt is a really good communicator. I always feel like I understand him, and I think he does a really good job with just talking to the camera, and he uses his facial expressions and his inflection very well, and I always come away from one of his reviews understanding the thing he is reviewing very well, and I think that says something about his ability to encapsulate whatever it is he's reviewing. I love that he was one of the only ones this week to really use some visual examples from what he was reviewing, to find different places in the book, hold it up, kind of that thing where usually when you're editing, you can edit in an inset or something, but he was doing manual insets, and kind of using them in a way that a lot of the others didn't, take time to use, or, other than I would say, like Mr. Goodplot using the robot, something like that. I didn't see a lot of that.
To be fair, that's hard when you're reviewing movies and stuff, but then, subject matter, choice is important. So
yeah, you'd have to get creative for sure. But I did like that. I thought that was a good thing. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I thought it was good content, great delivery. I think he could have been a little more creative. I think one of you already said that it would have been nice to see him, do like the Spy Hunter thing where he's in the car, so there's a little more visual. Stuff to look at, but overall, I thought it was great. I think he's very well spoken, and I want to see this book. I come away from it going, oh yeah, I want to check that out. I know what that is.
Manos, I want to say we haven't heard from you yet.
Oh, I thought I did talk about this.
Oh, did you?
Started.
I have no idea where we're at right now, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Lance, have you talked about this yet? No, you started, Lance. Yeah.
Yeah. I was the only one left.
I'm done, Lance.
Lance is like, I'm done. I'm not doing it again.
I did have an interesting thought hit me when he was talking about the negative being that the book is, this wasn't the essence of the negative, but he mentioned it, that it's no longer canon. And I find that
it's not a slight against the thing itself.
Right, yeah, but that concept is very interesting to me. The idea of what is canon and what isn't, and who gets to decide that. And it's interesting because you're talking about like fiction, but there's a real version of fiction. You know, and so it's like,
yeah,
it's an interesting thing to think
Welcome
about.
to my world, sir. It's all I deal with all day long. Yeah,
I know.
But it's an important thing to bring up, and again, it's a difficult thing to really slight the author of the book for, because it's a pre-canon thing. But the problem is, I mean, you fall in love with certain characters, and then it gets wiped out, and you say, well, you can pick and choose for yourself what is canon. Yeah, until they start paving over it with other stuff, until they decide to take Deja Thoris or whoever we're talking about and make it a different thing. Deja Thoris, that was from the other thing. I'm tired. We've been doing this forever. Until they take Aura Singh and make her an entirely different character, or whoever we're talking about. I realize she was in Clone Wars. No, don't listen to me when I'm talking about Star Wars stuff. But anyway, so yeah, I can see why you brought that up. As far as the criticism stuff goes, I will say that I found myself while watching it, having not looked at the book, thinking of things that might have bothered me about it that he didn't bring up, and that was weird. Where I was like, here's the thing I might have criticized, but I'm not holding it, and you might not agree with me. So, I can't really slight you that hard for it, but maybe he could have, been more critical of it. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it.
I remember the other positive thing I wanted to say about his communication style is I always believe what he's telling me, that he believes it. Like, he does a very good job of being in the present of his sentences. So, like, when he's talking about how the book is made well, he's knocking on it. And, you get the sense he understands what he's saying, and he's saying it well. And I think that was evident in this, without the editing even more.
Importantly, people review books, and a lot of the time they don't talk about the actual packaging of the book. That was one of the things that was kind of neat about it. Was it Connor who came into the contest reviewing bookbinding?
Yeah.
And it's really cool to me when people say, well, I'm reviewing a thing. Physically, it is a thing. So even if it's got narrative or whatever, inside of it, it also there is packaging. You know what I mean? Like, I sometimes enjoy DVD or Blu-ray reviews when they get into the story, but they also talk about here's how it was put together and whether or not that was as effective as it should be, because you're almost talking about two pieces that come together and have some kind of a symbiotic relationship. Okay, cool. Anybody else? Anything? Let's go on now to everybody's favorite part. It's Top Banana time! Finally, Top Banana! So we're gonna find out what everybody's favorite review was for this week, and I feel like we're likely to not have a consensus. I'm very interested to see how this ends up working out. Once again, of course, we don't have Alex with us this week, so his will count later. Fortunately, Top Banana is not actually a thing that really does anything to anybody in the content. Real quick though, everybody, give me a second, because it just occurred to me that we do have a viewer Top Banana this week. We haven't even talked about it. I don't know right now who got it. So let me look that up real quick. We've had so many technical difficulties tonight, I forgot to even pull that up. So give me just a second.
Sure.
And we'll find out who is immune this week. Manus, you're always good at providing music.
Sure.
What even is it? Oh, he's got that thing again, yeah.
This thing I got out of like a box of cereal like in 2007, and it still works. It's amazing.
Okay, this week, with the votes were all over the place. This week, with only 22% of the vote, inching out Matt Kid by just 3%, Squatch Gang has immunity this week. So congratulations to you, Squatch Gang. There is no way whatsoever you can possibly be voted off this time. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into Top Banana. Let's begin with Lance. Lance, what was your favorite review this week, sir?
This is tough for me, especially because I really think that I kind of turned around while we were deliberating. And I said this during Deliberations that I enjoyed this one much more than I had before. I don't know if I was just in a bad mood or tired or whatever, but actually, and there were several that were really close in the running, but I'm gonna go with I think this is one I chose last time. I'm gonna go with Mr. Goodbot.
Wow. Astounding, especially since you started off earlier, like you said, going, I don't even think I liked this before, and now it's gone all the way to Top Banana. That's amazing. Yeah. I will go next. I'm with no hesitation whatsoever, except that I'm tired and I couldn't think of the word hesitation. I vote for Connor Nielsen. I think I liked his review more than anybody else this week. I was so impressed with it, and again, it was kind of for me in a way. So I guess it's hard to be completely objective about it. But I thought he did the best job this week of finding a way to make the review really interesting and do it in such a way where I couldn't imagine him doing it any other way. Although I will say, Aaron, that if he could have edited, I feel like if he put his if he had subtitles, you wouldn't have had as many problems with it.
I agree. No, I totally agree.
I think that actually would have worked a lot. Still, I stand by my vote, Connor Nielsen. Go ahead, Manos.
I am probably the only person here who makes non-edited videos, and I am watching this one video, and I thought, damn, I wish I had done that sometime in my life.
Wow.
This whole kind of setup. Mr. Goodplot, I really enjoyed that video a lot, and I thought it was really well done.
All right, that's 2 votes for Goodplot, and I'm currently a lone wolf on Connor Nielsen.
You're a lone wolf!
Let's hear from... Well, that's the way I like it! Let's hear from Mr. Dicer!
I'm actually going with a Mr. as well, but it's the other one, Mr. Cool. I enjoyed it more than anybody else's this week. So
really,
I really did.
Wow,
really
cool.
Did.
I mean, it was a good review, but wow.
It was close for me. It was close for me, but I just overall the way he integrated the concept stood out above the others for me. So that's why I ended up going with him.
Very cool. Okay, well, by the skin of his teeth, this is the 3rd time now that Mr. Goodplot has gotten top banana, and that makes it very hard for me not to call him the current frontrunner of the contest, which is absolutely fascinating to me. But I have to say that he would have been 2nd or 3rd on my list this week, and I wouldn't have voted for him last week, but this time, oh my goodness, that was such a solid, entertaining review. And you know, a lot of the time people will handle physical objects and action figures and things, and I'll be like, you talked for 12 minutes and you didn't say anything critical about it whatsoever. You're just like, look, it's this person, and then there's this, you're just not really saying anything. I'm not saying that about anybody. Of course, Review Spot, or about everybody, Review Spot used to be on the show, and he is just meticulous. But there's a lot of people that aren't, and I really appreciated his ability to do that and still keep us engaged. Also, isn't it amazing that he keeps getting top banana and he keeps reviewing crap that no one would care about until he talks about it? It's absolutely fantastic. This is the kind of personality that people are going to watch because it's him, and they're not going to care what he reviews, and they're going to care more about the thing that he talked about when he talks about it. And I think that is the best thing for a reviewer, where people tune in for the personality, not necessarily for the thing that's being reviewed. Really, really cool. Really cool. Okay, moving right along. We're going to want to the vote off now, and oh, here comes the sadness. So we're gonna do the vote off, and once again, if this ends up being a tie, which is possible, we will go ahead and let you know, contestants, what the challenge for next time is gonna be. But we will also, well, by the time you see this, we should have hopefully brought in after the fact Alex to fill out the rest of this. So anyway, nothing I just said will probably matter to you, except that that was all done after the fact. Let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? Beginning the vote off, and I never start. I always make other people start. I'll start this time, and I hate to do it because I just love him, and he's been a wonderful viewer for years and years, and he sent me things in the mail, and I love the man, and I've really enjoyed a lot of his reviews, but this time it just didn't work for me, and was definitely the bottom of the group for me this week. It's Comics Kid 2099. I've got to vote for him, unfortunately. Let's see if the others agree with me or not. Let's begin with Manos.
This is kind of tough. Everybody's pretty good. I feel like if I vote off anybody, I feel like I'm voting off a good video. That kind of week with this show. I guess I would probably have to vote off. Probably. I'd probably have to vote off You can edit this down when.
I'm gonna make everyone sit through it.
Okay, because it's delightful. I would have to say, I suppose, probably.
You just can't make your mouth form.
I know, I can't make my mouth do it.
Oh man!
Yeah, I guess. Man, I guess. Crap, this one's tough.
Did you see Aaron?
This one's a really tough one this week. I'm probably gonna have to go with because I got two I'm thinking of.
So you had you had not even remotely decided until just now, and still possibly haven't.
This one's well, I usually narrow them down, frankly, and then in the discussion I go, oh, okay, yeah, that one's the clear one choice. But this one is like crap. I'm still kind of beaten back and forth for three different ones.
Oh, I mean, I let the Deliberations sway me if they're going to. I was just surprised that, like, we're this far and you still aren't sure. Wow, that's amazing.
This was a really tough week.
It is tough.
This was... Man, I guess I'm going to have to settle with Comics Kid.
All right, that's 2 for Comics Kid, but obviously... begrudgingly is all hell.
Begrudgingly, because I don't want to vote off anybody. I thought this was a really good, solid week.
All right, we're going to sadness. Sadness is hanging there.
Sadness for a reason. I totally agree that it's like you're gonna vote off somebody who you almost feel like doesn't deserve it this week because everybody's doing good work. So just assume that I took as much time as Manos to say it because that's how much my heart doesn't want to say it. But I for the vote off I'm going with Kai.
Wow. Is it because of the minute and 15?
It's the minute and 15, and it just of all of them it feels it's hard to distinguish between those bottom few, but all the other ones that had something in them that I went, nope, that puts it over that one for me. That one was just a little too down the middle of the road. It didn't have anything that put it above the others for me. So.
All right, so right now it's 2 for Comics Kid, it's 1 for Kai. Either Lance here will be the deciding vote, or we'll have to wait a bit to hear from Alex. Let's see what Lance has to say.
Okay, I'll give the preamble, which I completely agree with. This was a really good round, and all there were no videos that were bad, and even though it might have seemed my deliberations were kind of harsh, I still think this was a good video overall. But I am going to decide because I'm voting Comics Kid 29.
Okay, well, I heard enough of that to know that Lance is also voting off Comics Kid. Man, okay, so that is it. We do not have to hear from Alex to know, and he's certainly welcome to tell us what his vote would have been. And I always make you guys do it anyway, so I'll ask him. But anyway, so Comics Kid, we are so sorry to say that you have been voted out of the contest, and that you will not be going for the final top banana. Wow, what a bummer. And Comics Kid, I just want you to know that I mean, I'm talking about your video in comparison to the rest of these, and it's not a horrible video, but you gotta pick somebody, and yours was the one that some of us had the most negative to say. But anyway, I'm sure Comics Kid understands, but I just what a bummer. I feel bad. And what a place where it's gonna get so much tougher. I mean, it's gonna keep getting harder and harder and harder, because I mean, this was 7.
Yeah.
Like 7. You would I mean, that's how good of a year it is. 7, you would kind of assume that we would still be at a place where it's not all that hard. I guess it's harder because we started with 12 this time.
Yeah, every time we do this, the first few weeks I think are fairly easy to vote somebody off, and then about around this time in a season, it just gets more and more difficult because you realize there's really no bad videos this week. There were no real terrible videos this week. You can't really just obviously go, well, that one. You kind of have to really think about it, and you kind of, I don't know. This week I feel pretty, I don't know. This week I feel pretty bad because I didn't want to vote anybody off.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to vote off Squatch Kid just so I can vote on somebody with immunity, but that's kind of a cop out. Yeah, that's how it is sometimes. It's
I don't know if it's beneficial to go down that road or not, but I will say if it lights a fire for Squatch Kid at all, he certainly would have been in that discussion for me.
Squatch Gang. Yeah, we keep calling him Squatch Kid. He's Squatch Gang. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just following suit, but Matt Gang and Squatch Kid.
Last week I gotta say this. Last time, this is neither here nor there, but last time in his interview, and I think he did it on purpose, but it was hilarious. Mr. Goodplot called him that Sasquatch guy. He goes, I don't know though. That Sasquatch guy has a really good video this week. And I don't know if I can match that Sasquatch guy.
But in that to say that's for everybody. Yeah. Everybody needs to be aware that that's how close it is. Yeah. Somebody like Squatch Gang who's doing great stuff, has a slightly off week, and you're in the discussion because that's just how good it is.
Well, and you want that. That's the kind of game you want, right? It's more fun for the viewers, but it's a lot harder on us. And remember, Squatch Gang 2 weeks ago two rounds ago got Top Banana.
He does great work, and they all do, and that's what I'm saying. It's I think it's important to for that matter, the person I actually said, Kai, is somebody who's done great work and did a good video this week, but it's just that close and right neck and neck, and I just think that should continue to light a fire to kick it up.
Yeah,
I certainly hope that it will. So Comics Kid, obviously, you guys still with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, it sounded like somebody went out, and I got paranoid because we've had all kinds of technical problems tonight. Comics Kid, I'll be in touch, buddy. I love this guy. Like I said, he's been one of our biggest supporters for years and years and years, and it was so cool of him to do the contest. I'm really glad that he put in a great video and was able to get in, and that he made it as far as he did. Bummer. Okay, now we're gonna go on to I'm looking for something important that I think I dropped when I was. Okay, I don't know.
I should also say with Comics Kid going home, the other contestants don't need to take this as some sort of condemnation of going shirtless. Like, that's okay. Had nothing to do with.
No, well, in fact, that was one of the things I loved about it was that he took that kind of fun risk and was thinking about the visuals, and that was great. Okay, guys, I'm sorry.
Give me a show. I even though I voted for him, even though I voted him off, I have to say I still feel really bad about it. So in that case, I am going to show solidarity with Comics Kid.
Oh God! I knew he was going to do it. I knew it. No, okay, I'm not doing that. That's not going to happen.
Yes.
Just so y'all know, that's not going to happen. And plus, you don't have to see these guys up close because, well, that's somewhat up close. Okay, well, there's two of them next to each other. Anyway, Lance, are you going to do it? Lance isn't going to do it.
Yeah, come on, Lance.
I'm going to have to have behind us of you, so by the time I take my shirt off, I gotta have your shirt.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I'm so behind you guys, I don't even know what you're all doing. Oh, man. Aaron, I need those so bad,
This is for you, Comics Kid. Comics Kid, Comics Kid! You are my Comics Kid!
Well, I can't decide if I'm glad that we've taken this long and it's this late because of that, or if that's or not. I'm not sure. But at any rate, let's go ahead now. Manos, that was beautiful, and I applaud your and I don't know, Shakespeare in the Park is all I'm saying. I think you should be doing that. Anyway, okay, so let's go ahead now and reveal what the challenge is going to be for next time. And as always, this year anyway, my fellow judges have no clue as to what we're doing, which is apparently the way that they like it, and it's a lot of fun for me. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting the remaining 6 contestants' names, not the actual contestants, contestants, because, you know, they're not here. They wouldn't fit in this hat. In this hat! And what we're going to do, before I tell you what exactly we're doing, is we're going to create 2 teams. Most years, we do some sort of a team challenge, and this time we're doing it much earlier than normal. We're going to have 2 teams of 3, and they're going to be sort of, kind of, helping each other with this review, although it's not going to be as tight of a team challenge as it has been before, although you folks will have some control over that, and I'll let you know about how that's going to work in just a minute. Let's go ahead and make the teams real quick, and then I'll explain what we're doing. On Team 1, we begin with Mr. Goodplot. On Team 2, we begin with Connor. Mr. Goodplot is joined by that Matt kid, while Connor is joined by Kai. Finally, Goodplot and Matt Kid have Mr. Cool, and Connor and Kai have... Who is left? Because I just realized that I accidentally wrote somebody twice. I lost a card. Who is left? Help me out. You guys with me?
I'm with you.
Sorry, I'm just...
Why can't... We're all doing this now. This is awful.
Lance making a bowl of cereal? Like, what's going on?
What's going on?
Just
Squatch Gang.
raisins and yes.
So Squatch Gang, sorry, Squatch. This has been a long night. I've not largely forgotten you. Anyway, all right. So
half the panel is topless. It's been a long night.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Kai, Connor, Squatch Gang, Mr. Cool, Mr. Goodplot, and that Mad Kid. What we're doing for next time is, and I'm going to give you a little bit more time than normal on this because it's going to take some time to do, is a challenge I like to call the Trilogy Duel. Mixing a couple challenges. We've never done this before. Last year, I want to say, was the year that we did a trilogy challenge where we had 3 people left, and we had all 3 of them review a film in a trilogy. This time, we've got 2 teams. You are both going to review the same trilogy, and I'm going to tell you what it is. This time, you're not going to get to choose. I get to choose, and what you do get to choose is which of you reviews which movie in the trilogy. And so each team will be reviewing the same set, and we will be looking at the set sort of as one piece, although you guys, and this is the big bit of freedom I'm giving you, is that you guys are absolutely welcome to coordinate as much or as little as you want to. You will each be reviewing each movie separately. You will get to choose which of you reviews which movie in the trilogy, and you'll get to decide if you want to coordinate and do any kind of planning together, or if you want to each review completely separately and just hope that all 3 of you are good enough to keep all of your team in the competition. The winning team will be completely immune, and we will only be voting between the losing team. So make sure that you're not the weakest link, or it might be curtains for you or someone else on your team. That's how it's working. And what I'm going to ask you to review, I wanted to get to pick something this year, because last year we did a challenge where I wanted somebody to review something They Might Be Giants, and it didn't happen because the person that was going to review ended up having to leave, and so I didn't get my thing. So this time, whole challenge, I get to pick. And what I have chosen, and I somewhat did this because this will get some people out of their comfort zones, a lot of this panel, big Star Trek fans, as far as I can tell, nobody actually in the contest not giant or giant Star Trek fans. I'm not noticing any of them. So it'll be fun to see how everybody does. This will also be the first time Matt has had to review something that's not a video game. Has had to. I guess this last time he didn't do that, but has had to. And I'm going to ask you guys to review the Star Trek trilogy 2, 3, and 4. So Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, and Voyage Home. That's what will be reviewed for next time. So once again, this is a little bit complicated, so I'll go through it once again quickly. Each team reviewing one of you Wrath of Khan, one of you Search for Spock, one of you Voyage Home, and each team gets to decide together which of you reviews what movie, and you can coordinate as much together or as little as you want to. 5 minutes this time. Everybody gets 5 minutes for their videos, a full 15 minutes for the entire trilogy, and look at my notes for the due date. Do you guys have any questions?
No, not really.
All right. Very cool. So that's what we're doing. Everybody, thanks so much for participating in the contest. We're sorry once again to lose Comics Kids so much that some of my panelists are losing their clothes. And we're going to go ahead and bid you a fond farewell for now, because I don't want that to go any farther than it already has. Thanks for watching, guys. We so appreciate you. This has been such a wonderful and engaging and interesting and enlightening competition. We'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan. This was Lance Fusion.
This is Lance Fusion.
Oh, excuse me. This is Lance. All right. Well, in the past, it'll be the past for you. He is so confused about time and tenses right now. I completely understand that. The shirtless Manos.
Enjoy my rarely seen Batman tattoo.
I didn't know you had that. That's pretty cool.
Me either.
Yeah. Wow, that is rarely seen. Mm-hmm. And the also shirtless Aaron Shirtless Dyson.
In the flesh.
Oh, man. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hey, I'm Alex, and these are my thoughts on the contestants this round of Who Reviews the Reviewers. First up is Squatch Gang. I really liked that he chose this to review. I watched through this show recently, and for the most part I largely agree with what he has to say. It is a show that gets better, although I think he kind of characterized it more as a bit of a gradual change when it is a pretty abrupt case of, you know, season 1 sucks and season 2 is a lot better, which was actually somewhat typical for a lot of the 90s animated Marvel shows. That wasn't the case with Spider-Man and X-Men, but definitely with the Iron Man show and the Hulk show as well. They're both shows that have 2 seasons, and one is good and one is terrible. I thought it was kind of awkward how he held up the box art the entire video. I kept expecting him to put it down. Some of the other judges brought up, as I watched that before I'm recording these, kind of the boring blank background, and yeah, there's a reason why people often shoot themselves in front of their bookcases or you know, art on walls behind them, because it makes it a little bit more visually interesting. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind in the future. They mentioned the verbal tics thing as well, though, you know, we all have our own bizarre idiosyncratic verbal tics that we sort of need to keep in mind and reel ourselves in and not do all the time. But you know, just kind of another thing to watch. It's not like it totally ruined this review or anything. Overall, this was good. It was solid. If this was just like a video that I found on YouTube reviewing this DVD set for this show, you know, I would have thought, okay, this is good. As far as it being an entry for the contest, it was just sort of lacking a wow factor for me. These are my thoughts on Mr. Goodplot this round. I'm gonna, I guess, sort of be the dissenting voice here in that I didn't really like this. I admire it in the sense of he tried something bold. It just didn't work for me. If you pick a shtick, you have to stick to the shtick. And the conceit of this review at the start is, oh, it's a nature documentary. But as soon as he picks up the toy and starts interacting with it as if it's a toy, the entire conceit of the review just is totally shattered for me. And then when he tries to return to it at the end, it doesn't work. This is a pretty typical toy review that takes place in a field, that's bookended by some faux nature documentary satire, but it just doesn't click. And that's frustrating for me because the content here is good. He brings up a lot of really valid points. Goodplot has this amazing ability to blend his humor with his points really well, to the point where it's almost like you're not entirely sure whether or not he means that, or how on the nose or how tongue-in-cheek he's being. So I really, really like that. Few people are able to pull it off really, really well, but that's something Goodplot always nails. Just sort of, unfortunately, all of that was in the middle of this sort of mess for me this week. So it didn't work for me this time. These are my thoughts on Comics Kid this week. I actually wrote quite a bit for his notes, so I'm just going to sort of read it off here, as it's some somewhat specific stuff. A lot of this discussion this time was sort of structure of this review and him talking about box office performance and stuff and like how that could have been better integrated. I will say sort of straight up, I did like this review. I like Comics Kid a lot, and it's kind of interesting because I often disagree with his opinions on things, although I do quite like John Carter, and I do think it's worth the watch despite it being a box office bomb. I always come away from his reviews knowing exactly how he feels about a thing and exactly why, which is the whole point of a review. And so if you can nail that, then it's like, okay, you've got the foundation down at least. I felt like he covered a lot of ground in this, despite it, just this being a short review. I think maybe a better way to have structured this would have been to start discussing the film as a bomb, why that was, and then to shift into the discussion of the film more as, okay, yeah, it failed, it didn't make money, but it's worth watching, and here's why. And that gets kind of muddled in here. Some of the other judges also brought up the comparisons to Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think are savvy, but he doesn't really explore at all, so they don't serve any purpose here. I thought that this was really well paced. I know Fusion has had issues with Comics Kid going too fast. I think he's just kind of at the right speed. As somewhat of a monotone talker too, it doesn't really bother me. I'm kind of used to that, and so I don't know, Comics Kid's level of emoting is at like a totally natural place for me, so that doesn't bother me at all. Overall, I liked this. I like how his jokes were good. I didn't really have any issue with the timing of his jokes either. I like how Comics Kid has sort of like gradually improved with every week. He seems to take the criticism that we give seriously and modifies his videos accordingly. And so it's good to see that, he's actually serious about this and competing. So overall, I think this could have been a bit better structured, but I like this week. These are my thoughts on Connor this week. I almost don't have too much more to say. I liked how Connor mentioned a lot of the toilet humor in Shakespeare. It's something people tend to forget about because Shakespeare gets associated with high culture, but it's like it is like like a Seth MacFarlane or like a Chuck Lorre comedy sort of a thing. Like it gets that raunchy at times and even worse. So it's nice to see that he had a really clear understanding of this play, of the humor, of the use of language. The only real criticism that I can give is his delivery is not fantastic. I think Aaron mentioned that. That said, like that he was able to pull this off at all is just totally impressive to me, so I'm not going to judge him too harshly. I'm not expecting a Kenneth Branagh level performance from him with this, but the delivery could have been improved. Overall, though, I thought that this was fantastic. Connor's a real contender here, and I loved this. These are my thoughts on Kai this round. The obvious thing to mention this time, and it was brought up by the other judges, is the audio level issues. It's insanely quiet. I had to turn the volume all the way up on YouTube and on my computer and put in headphones and then get different headphones that were like cover my ears headphones to block out any other noise in order to hear it. So that is just something to watch for in the future. I thought that he picked a really good thing. I know Kai is really into films, and so it was great to see him talk about Hitchcock. I do agree with some of the judges that he could have perhaps gone into a bit more depth here and given a bit more analysis of sort of the themes, because like was brought up, this is a film that's all about cinema. So to leave that out is sort of a pretty glaring error, especially given this was under time. But that said, like, I liked what I got, and I would love to see Kai do more stuff like this and to do more stuff on Hitchcock. I think that'd be really fascinating. I also liked how he did incorporate a lot of Hitchcock-style jokes in this as well. I thought that was clever. Mr. Cool. I love this time. This was great. The other criticisms that were brought up, I think apply. After he gets interrupted by the guy on the street, he does seem a little bit flustered and doesn't, I feel, 100% recover, but he mostly salvages it, and that's really impressive. I have no idea how many takes this took. If this was just one, that would be really interesting. It's clear from the writing and the structure of it, like, this is very well prepared. I'd be curious to hear how he did memorize this, and was it he memorized everything, or did he just have sort of a, like, these are my bullet points and I'm going to talk from there. I'd be fascinated to know. This is great. Obviously, getting meta with this really worked in this case, and was a great way to address this challenge and make things really interesting. When I was in the contest, I always tried to view all of the challenges as opportunities to try something new and something different, or sort of expand how I normally worked. And it was really kind of cool to see Mr. Cool break out of his regular style and try something different, and I thought it was a success this time. These are my thoughts on that Mad Kid this time. This is kind of an interesting case this time. I've read this book and I really didn't like it. I'm just like super picky with Star Wars Expanded Universe stuff, but I liked how he kind of walked us through this. He explained what it was really, really well, and as someone who's familiar with it, I felt like for the most part he hit on a lot of the stuff that you would want to tell people about when reviewing this. He hits on sort of all the essential points, so just kind of on that level, it's on point. Matt continues to be very affable and very likable. He's got a nice, easygoing, relaxing personality that puts you at ease, and I trust what he has to say. Even though in this case, I don't happen to agree with him, it almost kind of made me excited about the book again, even though I wasn't really a fan of it. So in order to pull that off, like, that's an impressive thing. That said, like, I know given some of the previous stuff that we've got from Matt, and maybe this isn't fair at all, this just was sort of underwhelming in comparison. That said, like, there's nothing really wrong with this. He could have gone perhaps a little bit more in depth. I did like how he brought up the point about like canon, and like, I guess this doesn't really count anymore because of the whole Disney buyout. So that's kind of interesting just from the perspective of he's viewing like the book as an artifact, which is sort of an interesting contrast given, he points out that this is sort of a Star Wars book that's written from an in-universe perspective. I don't really have too much more to say in this case. I just thought this was sort of, really good and solid. Good job. As far as Top Banana goes this week, Connor's my pick. I just thought, the whole Shakespeare thing, doing the whole review in iambic pentameter, clever, brilliant. Performance could have used a little bit of work, but it was great. I'm totally impressed. My bottom this week is sadly Mr. Good Plot. Like I mentioned, it just didn't click for me this time. But yeah, those are my picks.